and even a better midday. So thank you to everybody, Bears versus Bulls, Ramin, Fabian, Brendo, everybody for all the help, Andre as well. Thank you so much, and we'll join you back here, right here at 2 o'clock. But for now, we'll shift over to the left. Take care. See ya.
Good morning, everybody, and happy Monday. Hope everybody had a good, solid weekend. Man, what a start to this morning. We'll wait for some people to come in the chat here, Adara, then we'll start doing some roll call. But here we go, continuing the downside price action in the NASDAQ and the S&P, guys. So a little bit of a tougher look for the longs today. We'll go over some of the trades that we did. And yeah, it just didn't work out as planned, but that's okay. We'll wait. There's still a lot of day left here, guys. All right, let's see what we got going on in the chat here. We got John Wick. Good morning. Andrew Chow. Once again, Kalua, our friend. Edwin Wang. Hey, what's going on? I didn't see what you said there, but maybe I shouldn't have gave that shout out. But here we go. Chef Joe. Vernier, full-time trader. Randall. Let's see what else we got in here. Why not? Okay, I guess so. Omega Zero. Wowie Dude. And Pazek. Jimmy J. The Corleone family, Atul, Ma Fatim, Mark Sushi, Darth Trader, okay, I like that one instead of Darth Vader, Luke S, Pax Z, my guy Gorav, let's go, Jose Perez, and who else do we got here? Adara, the Blue Baron. That is the roll call this morning. Oh, one more here, Nephew with capital P. Okay, I see what you're up to here. We'll switch that over here in just 1 second. Pardon me? Okay, all right, straighten it. The boss lady said we got to switch it up and straighten it. We'll do that. So yeah, Dare, how's your morning been so far?
My morning's been great, thank you, Joe.
Cool.
Yeah, I mean, I'll take a moment here. I'm going to actually prepare a lesson for the day for you guys.
Yeah,
I'm really excited to get into. Before we do that, I have been involved in 2 tickers today, currently involved in one, though it is not on the position board, and that is because I got involved before the show started. So this is Flix, or Netflix, as Obi likes to call it. And there's a theme here that you're going to notice between this and my AAPL breakdown, and it is, unfortunately, fat fingers, so that means we have to be a little bit more cautious with our entries. Look at this short entry on NFLX. Why do I like it? We're below VWAP. We're at that 870 level. I can risk a prior bar in the 875. Now, risking $5 is a lot, but with these spready tickers, if I use small size, I don't mind at all because I am not necessarily someone that needs a 2-to-1 RR. If I think the trade has high probability, I'll take it. And point B, I also liked it, again, just because if I have small enough size, if I'm thinking about in terms of percentage of my overall risk, I don't mind taking a move like that or risking something like that. So I tried this short, and then I went to move my stop to the new prior bar in the 3-minute, and I fat fingered. So great, out of the trade. Obviously, it ended up working out quite nicely, but I did not have the impetus for myself to get back in, and I didn't want to force it. That's cool. I don't have a problem with that because then I see this flat bottom break attempt. I get short. I risk again to prior bar in the 3, but I forgot to move to this prior bar, and I get stopped out. I'm cool with that. I have a 3-strike rule. So I can take it as a short again, and I do when I come back, sit on this here desk, and I see once again we are breaking here on this the bottom here, trying to flat bottom break. But I don't want to take the 3-minute. We have enough data. I don't need to do that. So what do? I risk to the 15-minute. So in that case, I am giving myself here, it's about, okay, yeah, it's roughly, yeah, 869 here, 869. I think I give myself 869.30. I might tighten that before we get into the lesson. But regardless here, giving myself, my entry here is the low here, so that's 864.30. Giving myself about 5 points, again, something I have no problem doing if it's a spreadier stock that I know is going to be a little bit herkier-jerkier, and if I've sized properly, and I actually sized up on this attempt compared to my second attempt at this because I still like the trade and I'm willing to risk a little bit more because I actually think if this goes, it's going to be a doozy. So that is my take here on NFLX. And when I mean sized up, I took the same amount of shares, but given that I'm risking more, it's still a size up for my parameters and for how I do my risk. So the next spready ticker we're going to look at here is AAPL. AAPL, another situation of the fat finger initially, and I'll move to the 3-minute because I used it for this trade. On AAPL here, I initially liked it as a long. We're above VWAP. I was going to be risking to these prior bars, and I accidentally put a short, realized I fat fingered, got out instantly, and did not even get hit that much. So I honestly am happy with that. I think I took a $1 loss on it, which again, for a spready ticker, I have zero problem with, and I've always risked for more than that. Then though, we get near VWAP, and I actually want to take the short, so I do take the short. Got involved out. I took, I think, 25% out here. This 249, so basically like the top of this pre-market range. Took out another piece here at the bottom of the pre-market range, got stopped out in the 3-minute prior bar, and obviously we have broken lower since, but I have no problem with the stop out, A, because I followed my rules, which was the 5-minute prior bar. At that point I flipped it, and the second point is I knew I'd have to get out of this trade once the midday started. So to that point, I wasn't trying to be flagrant and just wasting money. I liked the trade, but I knew that I wasn't going to have as much time with it as I necessarily would. And I'm never going to chase. I'm not going to cry over spilled shares. So that is my AAPL and Netflix quick little analysis. I'm going to be in some more trades at some point for sure. Like I'm still in the Netflix, again, not on here, but it is 864.30s. So right now we're like 30 cents on the money on the ask, which again, that's not going to move the needle for me. With a spready ticker, I want dollars and I want blood, or I want lots of green if I'm long. So we'll have to wait and see. Other things I'm looking at, I'm looking at Mr. MSTR, but truthfully, this is my first time trading at this desk, so I'm still setting up my system. Now that I have gapped for way too long, Joe, what are you looking at over here?
No, it's all good. I mean, we had to go through all those trades that you put on this morning. They look pretty good from my standpoint anyways, Adara. So nice work there on that front. So sticking with the shorts, Adara, is, and I think that's the way to go here. Trying to find these bottoms. I don't even want to display this, but it is what it is. Try to grab it a couple of times on the TQs. Hopefully this will be a bottoming signal here, guys, and then we can get the ball rolling. Took a couple attempts on this name, just didn't work out, and that's okay. And then we had NVDA as well, too. It's unfortunate because I was in exactly where I wanted to be, and then I cut this a little bit early. These were just wicks, and it never really came. Oh, sorry, my mic here. Let me fix this up. There we go. So yeah, guys, sorry, it just never really came to my break even, and I got out a little bit earlier, but this move here would have been beautiful, and then I would have just been able to sit pretty for the majority of the session. But that's okay. We'll do a little bit of a grind back here, guys. But we're not overly worried about it because it happens. The market is really, really weak on the session. Let's take a look at the Qs to see what we're down overall here. And it's just not a pretty look, right? So, wow, okay, so down 3% here on the session, guys, and just being dragged down by a lot of these big tech names here. There, NVIDIA, Tesla, Apple was selling heavily. And I haven't taken a look at Microsoft today, so we'll see what Microsoft is up to. And yeah, just dragging everything down along with it. So a little bit tougher of a look. I've seen that Staples was relatively strong. So that's what we got to do, right? If tech is overly weak, we got to go around and look for what buying strength there might be and find some relative strength instead of weakness. So energy sector up about 1.25 here on the day. Consumer staples about 1% as well too here, guys. And then utilities up about 0.7. The rest of the sectors are red. So we have healthcare red, real estate, industrials, materials, financials, and then the bottom three are the consumer discretionary, the comm services, and the tech sector, all right? So that should say enough. I want to take a look at Meta here. I know Adara likes Meta, and just continuing to bleed, so not overly pretty. XLE is relatively strong. I mentioned that, and here you go. This is the price action on today's session here in XLE. Don't want to chase it all the way up at the highs here, Adara, but I mean, if we can get involved on some form of pullback and stick with this relative strength, then I'll look to do so. But nice look here on XLE. Pre-market not overly liquid, but you can see that we just have a beautiful pullback here, and then we push through the volume-weighted average price consolidation phase as we break through this 5-minute opening drive high, and then continue to the northeast, guys. So really nice price action here from XLE, the best performing sector on the day, and that's it. So let's see what we got going on for volume. Adara's got a lesson for us. I want to go over the top 3 volume stocks this morning, and we probably already know what's at the top of the class. With NVDA with 120 million shares traded, Soxel sitting in second here, and then the TQs sitting in third with 58 million shares traded on the day. We're getting the TQs to slowly bounce back. We're going to look for the next resistance level, then we'll start to take some out. But Adara's got a lesson for us, guys. What do you got cooking up for us, Adara?
Yeah, I do. I'm excited to go over this.
Yes.
Just an update here. NFLX looking like I'm probably going to get stopped out. That's cool, though, because I'm not going to leave. Why? Because it has not hit my stop yet, so I have no reason to.
Exactly.
I'm aware I did risk, like I said, 5 points on this, but for a spready ticker, I have no problem doing that if I think it's worth it. So we're risking here to this 15-minute prior bar high around this candle here that just above 869s. We're going to wait and see what happens. Slippage is an issue, but I always size appropriately for that, so let's wait and see what occurs. If we bounce off the 9 EMA, I suspect I'm wrong, and we're trying to do that right now around that 866. But again, Do I know I'm wrong? No, because the basis of my trade was that prior bar in the 15. So until we've hit that, I am not wrong by the parameters through which I entered the trade. So with that in mind, a couple questions here that I want to mention. Harry Liu was saying, if you're not looking for 2-to-1 risk to reward, what's the acceptable risk to reward in your spread of your names? The truth is, I don't have one, and I think that's fine. My thing is, do I think I can get at least what I'm risking, for example, 5 points on the trade? And if I think I can, then it's worth it to me. It's also how probable I think it is. With Netflix, this is what you'd call trend. We've been selling off on the daily chart. We're selling off on the intraday after an attempted bounce. So I do think it's realistic we could continue to sell further, and that's why I'm comfortable entering that trade. But I'll always explain my impetus for trades. Like, I have no problem doing that throughout the day. Also, Tushar is saying, I'm struggling with patience and waiting for my setups. Any advice to improve this? Well, it's actually a great transition into our lesson, because a lot of our lesson is that, and my advice, Tushar, is you're gonna have to figure out what works best for you. So today's lesson, which I'm deeply excited about, is discovering your trading identity. Also, shout out to Obi, who just clapped there, so I'm guessing he has a nice trade going on there. To which we say, oh boy. So really big question to start this, who are you? So this question could mean a lot of things, and I'm aware like I'm taking us all back to psychology class and dark nights, but what you have to figure out is which traits are central to your personality. And this is beyond trading, this is just in life. Like what traits by which would you define yourself? What motivates you and what gets you excited about the world, life? What makes you unique? What interests do you have, right? How do you approach the world? How do you view things? And which ways do you learn? Because all of these are key to who makes you, what makes you up as a person, but they're also going to be key to discovering your trading identity. So, because the thing is too, like just as you can figure out who you are as a person, you can figure out who you are as a trader. So you guys are thinking, hey, I want to take some trades. Why does it matter? Why am I like in psychology class or on some weird YouTube channel? Why? Why does this matter? Because understanding who you are as a trader, much like understanding who you are as a person, can help you find the best approach to your life, figure out how to navigate your life. What kind of allowances do you need? What are some factors that can improve or actually make negative impacts on your performance? What strategies and practices should you be doing, right? So the other thing here is understanding who you are as a trader can help you find your own setups and stocks that you can trade confidently and comfortably. So I'm going to be using the example a lot of myself because I made this lesson and I guess how I discovered trading spread, but we're going to get into that throughout the lesson. The other thing too is you can get your own personal sense of edge. Now, edge can mean a lot of things and it's really hard to kind of quantify and notify, but if you feel like you have a leg up in the market because of your approach, that is automatically going to help you do better, at least be more confident in your approach, because if you feel good about it, you're going to take more size if necessary. You're going to be also confident knowing when you're wrong and knowing when to step back, because if you don't feel like you have any edge up, why are you taking the trade, right? So it's about finding ways to be more comfortable and take the trades that deserve to be taken and don't get involved in ones that don't. So we're going to start here with knowing your strengths. So this really means just figuring out what you're good at and where your interests lie as a trader, right? So what kind of traits do you have? What attributes do you have that can benefit positively, not just to trading in general, but also to specific trades, to specific strategies, and to specific stocks or markets or entities. So really what you have to do is explore the markets and find ways to apply these strengths and interests to your trading. And take your time. Like, you do not have to figure this out overnight. You can cycle through different aspects of your trading identity, because once you figure something out, it's going to be worth all the time that you took to figure this out in the first place. So the more individual approaches to the market you can find, the better. If you can find analogies that you think are applicable to the market and use that approach in your mind, just even mentally, to help see the way that you view the market, I think that is really key. So here are some examples, right? So let's say your strength is pattern recognition. I talk about this a lot with myself for spread. I like seeing the ways that these spready tickers move on the book, on the bid, on the ask, and I'll use that as the impetus for my entries, of course, in Confluence. So if you have pattern recognition as a strength, this might make you more apt at noticing repeated behavior in the chart or in the tape, which can increase your confidence in a trader outcome. And one ex-user on FinTwits that I've been getting more familiar with is Nathan Michaud, who really what he'll do is look at patterns on charts and see how things have moved similarly in the past. So I think that is key. Just two examples here. So what if your strength is industry knowledge? Let's say, Sharif will talk about this a lot because he has that pharmacy background. Sometimes he's more aware of what the implications of a story might be in the pharmacy space. So that's just one example. I think we use pharmacy knowledge a lot because it's one specific niche, but regardless of what that industry is, I know there's Jay Lee in our chat who knows a lot about software and tech. Whatever that is, use that if you can to help you quickly analyze breaking news or just news in general in a specific industry and find out what direction you might want to take. And that can be both intraday really quickly or in the longer term. I know Darwin a lot will talk about how Moderna has certain longer term catalysts. And I just like shouting out people in the chat because I think when you see these names a lot, you understand each one of you has your own strengths and your own weaknesses, which we'll get to in a second. And I know this is really kind of a rudimentary psychology lesson, but I do think it's important. I think it was extremely helpful for myself trying to get to consistency as a trader. So knowing your weaknesses, and I want to stress, this is different than knowing your strengths, because knowing your strength is like, you can feel good about that, right? You can be like, this is something I know I can do, but you do have to know your weaknesses as well, because if you know what might stop you, you could find ways to cut that off at the head and stop it from impacting further trades and your trading journey as a whole. So you have to understand why or how you lose, both in trading and life. If you're really stubborn, that's something that might impede you in life, and it's certainly going to impede you in the market. So just be aware of these traits, and more importantly, be solution-based. Find ways to avoid these negative tendencies before they even stop you in a trade or during the day, and build your strategies around that, and be honest with yourself. If you think you have a weakness, don't try to attribute it to other things. Just be honest, this is my weakness, this is what's happening. Take time to analyze your data and figure that out, because it will save you pain. So here are some examples, right? What if your weakness is greed and or impatience? And obviously these are very different, but both of these can lead you to get out of trades earlier than needed. And I used to do this all the time. It was impatience. It was worrying about factors. It was I didn't have clear enough guidelines before entering the trade in the first place, perhaps. So the solution is just stay calm in the trades. Keep calm, carry on. Have your plan ahead of time and come up with exit rules before entering each trade. And now kind of the inverse of this is impulsivity. This is a trait. Obviously, these traits can impact you in the market in different ways, but this might actually lead you to get involved in trades unnecessarily before you need to, or just even when they're not in play. So come up with clear entry rules and hold yourself to them. You know, one concept from Lance Breitstein, who is another name on FinTwit, is the idea of no man's land. Right? So the idea is sometimes stocks are just not in play at all. Come up with your own rules for when that's the case. Is there not enough volume, just not enough in interest, and just keep going. So here are some tips and tricks here. One is P&L is a byproduct and it is not the goal. And I know this is really huge. And I know this is also easy for us to say because we're in a prop firm. When you're retail trading at home, you want to put up that green. But the thing is, if you figure out what your system is first, your chances of putting up that green do end up becoming a little bit more consistent and higher over time. Ebbs and flows in your P&L are totally normal. Like I talked about this, I had my first green month in October, I was green in November, and then December and January were a bloodbath. And that's fun because I was figuring things out. I was moving away from spread and trying to trade other names. What I realized is, no, I'm more comfortable with spready tickers. You know, breaking news, I'm willing to go outside of that. But, you know, it's really important to kind of learn through experience, and progress will take time and sustained effort. The more you put into the market, the more effort, the more Mother Market will give you back. She'll give you a cookie for dessert. She'll pat you on the head. She'll tuck you in before bed. Whatever it is, know that you're going to get into the market what you're putting, or get out of it what you're putting into it, and understand this progress will take time. Now, you know, you also want to talk to other traders. I think this is huge. Through, you know, you're going to do this on networking events, even on this floor, even when we have, you know, now the floor is a little bit smaller, but when we have events, for example, OB's grad party, shout out, when you have a whole bunch of other traders on the floor, you can really get the chance to talk to them. What are they doing? What are they looking at? And this is really big, I think, for a couple reasons. I think the biggest one, though, for the purpose of this lesson, is that can help you realize that every single market participant has their own approach to the market. And you can make money in all different kinds of ways. I think that's really huge. Also, it helps you understand the psychology of traders. So if there's certain things that are costing people money or leading to a lot of losses, you can think, how do I avoid that? How do I skew out of that, right? So I think that's huge. You also want to try everything and track your progress. I, for a while, identified as a range trader. I identified as a scalper until I found the strategy that works best for me. And again, I don't think you should mirror yourself to the strategy, but if you're noticing something with consistent results, move with that. Like I find when I get consistent positive results is when I'm trading spread, and that's why I stick with that, and for that reason alone. But even that being said, I trade a variety of different setups. Within that, I just focus on tickers that are going to give me, in my opinion, edge or a higher probability of success. And you, last but not least here, just make sure you're tracking your journey to see if your strategy is making a difference. Make sure, I take screenshots every day, track that P&L at the end of the day, not necessarily during the trading day, but just make sure you're aware of how your trading is going, because if you don't know how it's going, how do you know if you're improving or if things are getting worse? So with that in mind, that is our lesson. I apologize, a little bit of a slower paced lesson, but I think it's a great way to start the week. And it's something I was thinking about this morning before I even knew I was going to be on here. So I'm happy I got to share that with you guys. Netflix working out quite nicely for us here. Again, still not on the board because I haven't taken a fill yet, but we got short 864.30s, currently around 860s right now. I'm going to move my stop to prior bar on the 15. Will I add? Yeah, actually, if we get an 862 pop reject, I will fully add there because that was that pre-market low. But other than that, I have no plans on taking any profit out yet. Like, we're not taking out anything. I am keeping every piece of this in until I have a reason to sell, and I want a strong reason to sell. So, right, or I guess buy, get out of the trade because I'm short. But wait and see what happens here. This was my little entry, that little purple guy. So that is the trade, and with that, I'll send you guys back to Joe.
Hey, yeah, good stuff there, Adair. I think psychology is extremely important. A lot of people say it's 70% mental and then 30% technical, and I agree with that. You need to beat around those, those walls that you have blocking you from just taking yourself to that next level. So I really like that lesson that Adair put together there. Much appreciated, and thank you for that one. I know. For me, this is why we need to talk about the psychology aspect, is because we know that the market sentiment has changed, and it's okay. You can try to buy the dips all the time, but on days like today, it's just not working, right? So you have to have the ability to kind of flick that switch and be like, hey, okay, my setup isn't specifically working, so time to maybe put the inverse of that, change it up, see what's possible, and then, hey, look to modify what's going on. And you don't completely have to change the system, but you just need to have that mindset flip, all right? So even though I'm long right now, trying to get a bounce in the Qs, looking for 62 in TQs, but if we break the low, that's just too many attempts. Adair says she has a 3-strike rule, and that's right. That's usually what I abide by myself. But I'm like, okay, we've been weak for a couple weeks now, 3 to be exact, and now starting this week off red. When are we going to get that oversold bounce? And unfortunately, the market can wait for you significantly longer than you can wait for it. All right, you get a little impatient. It can stay irrational significantly longer. So we'll hold on to this position until otherwise. We always talk about the risk to reward here. So I'm going to hold it. If we break and crack this support level and then continue to the south side, then I'm just going to get out of the trade. It's that simple. I'm not going to hold on to it. We are slowly climbing back here, looking for this oversold bounce in the market. We are running into some key resistance zones. As you can see, it was established previously over here on the 1 minute, and then now what was one support now acting as resistance. We're going to need some volume and momentum to step in order for us to break through those levels and then take that next step higher, all right? And that's what we're going to look for. A touch of the volume weighted average price will put us right below 62.50, and that's going to be the target, all right? We're going to try to hold on to the majority of the size until that price target, because that's the game plan. And I think that's what Adair is really good at. She just comes up with a plan, her strategy, what she's going to do, and executes it and just sticks to it, all right? And it kind of just modify audibles as she goes sometimes as well. But you don't want to do too much audibling to the point where you're like, oh, okay, maybe I'm just modifying the system too much, and you just need to stick to it. Because with today's price action, you can see that buyers aren't stepping in, and it's like, okay, well, I'm going to continue to audible, but what if the run play is not working, right? We got to go pass, we got to go play action, we got to switch something up. So that's kind of just the mindset that I'm in right now. Running through some key resistance levels right now, Adair. It looks like the market's going to want to catch somewhat of a bounce here, and that seems pretty good. So everybody in the chat, let us know what you're looking at. We'll go over some of your tickers. I'm going to sit in this trade for as long as I have to, and that's to 62. I'm not going to look to take any size off until 62, and then I'll take the full size off at 62.50 unless that momentum steps in and we have the ability to break through the volume weighted average price. So that is exactly what I am looking for. Let's see what 61% on Tesla, says Ronnie. Yeah, it's a tough look here in Tesla, and it's unfortunate. I talked to you guys about my average and everything along those lines, but just losing so much value in the span of a month or so, or whatever it may be, a couple of months, it's not easy to sit through, and nor is it fun, especially for the long-term accounts, but that's okay. Waiting for that oversold bounce, now going back to this breakout level here, which is not pretty. We're probably north of 50% now to the downside from peak to trough, 51%. from this all-time high here, guys, to where we're currently sitting at. So tough look here in Tesla. Elon needs to get his focus straight and really get that fleet out in Austin. I think that's just what I'm sticking to. It could put a spike in the stock, and that's what we're hoping for, guys. So yeah, let's go over a couple of the names. Holmes Lindsay says SPY calls. Yeah, I was looking at the options chain not too long ago, and what I realized is that there's the high levels of open interest at that 470 strike on the Qs. So is that going to act as somewhat of a magnet and we get dragged towards those levels? We'll have to wait and see, to be honest with you. And with the current market sentiment, I'm going to have to say yes. Is it going to happen today? Maybe not. But at this week's expiration cycle, that is where you're going to see the highest levels of open interest that are out of the money. There is some higher levels in the money, but we're not going to focus on that. We're going to see what is out of the money and look for those support levels and if it's going to act as a possible magnet here in the market. But here we go, climbing higher now, Adara, starting to get this bounce. Finally, we put in, like, we were essentially selling for 2 hours here before we got any half decent bounce. These were all just market breaths, and then you can take, and then we take those additional legs lower. So this might be a bottoming signal. One thing that I do like to note is that we have this engulfing volume candle and a price action print as well too, followed by an indecision. So that is something that I always look for. You know, we talk about these bottoming signals all the time, but one thing that before they display themselves from time and time again, from time to time, you will see that we have these volumes. This could be possible exhausting volume, and then you get the engulfing price action print as well too. Now sitting above this resistance zone, let's see if we can hold this relatively longer. I have a feeling it's going to be a grind to 62 and to 62.5. So I'm going to pack my patience, hold these horses, and I'm going to hold on to this trade. Like Adara said, there's no reason for me to get out of it until price tells me to get out of it or my trade thesis tells me to otherwise. So I'm going to hold on to this. Hopefully we get that 62 rip here, Adara, and I'm going to hold on to the size. What do you got going on there?
Yeah, so this is the thing with trading spread. What I love about it, what makes it crazy, is you can go from like you're totally right to you're totally wrong.
Yeah.
In it. So we were nicely. I think we were like $5 in the money here in NFLX, and then we bounced, and now we're about like $3.50 out of the money. And the thing is, my thesis has not been proven wrong, which is power bar high in the 15. So I'm still chilling in this. I literally am not leaving. We're also below VWAP, which also does give me confluence. I did move my stop to power bar high in the 15, the new one that was made while I was waxing poetic during the lesson. So now we're about 868.50, but given slippage, it will probably slip me and I'll probably lose a little bit more than that. Again, I have no problem with that because I risked it appropriately and I do not mind. Areas I'm watching here for a potential change though in my thesis, if we bounce off 864, basically around my entry here, this 864.30, not gonna love that. I'm also not gonna love if we can't get below 862. If we can't get below 862, I will add. And I mentioned that earlier. If I see interactions with 862 in a way that I like, that I think confirms my thesis, I will get back involved. And I want to mention that because I know there's a lot of talk here about DCAs being planned or unplanned. What I like to do is I like to have a nice little like rough sketchbook, right? An outline, if you will. So there's areas that I always like when I go into a trade potentially that I'm like, maybe this could be an ad. But if it doesn't set up, I don't want to add because I don't want to be adding all willy-nilly. So with that in mind, that's going to be my plan for NFLX. And certainly, get an idea. I cannot update the position board, unfortunately, because my position has not changed. But the second that I get a fill or I get out or I get stopped out, it will update. As I mentioned earlier, my entry for NFLX was 864.30 short. So I'm about $3 out of the money. But again, I was willing to initially risk 5. So that's not a problem for me. And you also might add, Adara, why are you still in this trade as it's pushing towards VWAP as we get that bounce off the lows? Because it has not hit my stop yet. And there have been times where I've gotten out of things before it's hit my stop, and it works like the second afterwards, right? So I don't want to run out of a trade. I'm starting to see some things that are a little bit herky-jerky with regards to confirming or disproving my position. But I saw that earlier, too, when we had this run into VWAP around here, and then we dropped. So I have no reason to leave. With that in mind, I am, to quote Jennifer Hudson in Dreamgirls, and I'm telling you, ooh, I'm not going. And we got stopped out. I'm cool with that. Actually, like 14-cent spread. So shout out to you, Netflix. This is my last attempt at the short. But if we get above VWAP, I have no problem with the long. And given that I fat figured myself out of this first short, maybe I could be like, oh, you get another shot. I don't want to do that, though. I don't like playing with my rules. So with that in mind, goodbye Netflix. It was nice watching you. Now I got to add a new name to my watch list, pun very much intended. MSTR. This is one I honestly constantly have this side chart up because I feel like it's one of those spready tickers that does always give you plays. I like these higher lows, and I like this area in and around 255. I was watching this earlier. If you can get a 255 hold, I have no problem risking to this low, which is 250. That is, again, risking like $5, but I have no problem doing that if it gives me a reason to do so. I want to do some multi-time frame looks, but MSTR, I do not mind here at all. Are there any small caps people are watching? Let us know what you are looking at. Math Fatim Sharif is sick for the day, but I will be here for the day to give you guys these plays. Not small caps, the opposite. We're going to be trading like $500, $800 tickers, but hopefully you guys don't mind too much. We're going to get Sharif back tomorrow, as far as I'm aware. And one spready ticker, I know Joe mentioned this one earlier. This is probably one of my favorite Mag 7s to trade, along with our pal Tesla, and showed it to Obi for killing it with that Tesla trade earlier. But Meta here, we are above the 9 EMA. We have made nice push off the lows. So I want to see what we do here at this 595 level. Oh my gosh, I just realized we bounced off of this 587, which is a huge level for Meta when it was below 600. So I really, really like this. Still have the MSTR order book up. I apologize, I'm going to move that to Meta. But I want to see what we do here, because if we can nicely hold above this 595, I have no problem getting into this. I need to take a look here at some other time frames for this META, but I have a feeling I'll either short this if we reject, or I'll go long through it. How are you doing?
Yeah, I'm good. We added to this position here on the TQs, guys. So we're starting to rip. I wish I got it added at this engulfing candle right now, but that's okay. As we sit on top of this resistance zone, I think that we can slowly climb higher. So starting to work out, coming into fruition, and that's what we want to see. But we got some good questions in the chat here. Oops, so Six Hustle asked, do I need to use VWAP, or do I have to use VWAP, or support and resistance good enough? Well, VWAP is a very common indicator amongst retail traders and a lot of traders, institutional as well. But again, it's preference, but I think the majority of traders, do you use the volume weighted average price on your charts right there? Yeah, so yeah, the majority of traders, I think everybody here on the floor uses it as a line in the sand. I most definitely do, and that's essentially the only indicator that I use. You guys can see that I don't have any moving averages if you don't want to classify it as one. Other than that, I don't have the 9, the 20, the 50, or anything along those lines, because I like to keep my charts as clean as possible, and I don't want analysis paralysis. Okay, I don't want too many things telling me too many things at once, and that it just started to work for me. So when I was trading at home, I only had the volume weighted average price and the Camarilla pivots, and that's all I needed. I want to look at the time of sales and price. Those are my indicators, okay, and that's specifically what I use. It's totally subjective. A lot of traders like to use multiple indicators. My buddy Dan F likes to use the Bollinger Bands. He trades Bollinger Bands. Greg uses RSI. We have an RSI video. There's such a wide variety of indicators that you can use. You just need to go, especially if you're in your earlier stages, experiment with what works for you, what really draws your eye, and what Adair was referring to earlier is pattern recognition, and then utilize it. None of them work 100% of the time, and you need to take that into consideration. But find something that works for you and that you feel comfortable with and you're just really attracted to. And RSI stands for Relative Strength Index, okay? So we have a video on that in our YouTube channel, guys, so go and check that out, Six Hustles. Hopefully that helps you because I know you had some good questions, and hopefully me answering the first one as well. So here we go. We're starting to pull back. We almost knocked on the door 62 here, Adair. We didn't quite get it before I started taking some off the top. If this rally and we can get more momentum to come into these spaces, the tech names start to recover. NVDA is back at the volume weighted average price. Palantir is trading above the volume weighted average price. So I think it's only a matter of time until we get that squeeze up into 62, and that's where I'm going to take my first partial here on the TQs, guys. So being really patient, holding these significantly longer. As you can see, I haven't pieced any out yet. Why? Because I need to have a larger risk to reward here. We took multiple stabs at it. Now I need a greater of a move. When something's working out, you also add to the position as well. So you can see that I got in here, entry slightly late, so that skews my risk to reward, but then I also add a little bit to the position. So you gotta make those winners as big as possible and then cut those losers relatively short. You can see I have a trade plan on every single one of them. I'm scaling in half a risk at each entry. Why am I only at half risk there? Because once it starts working, I can add into the position and be in at full risk. But when you add, that also lifts your stop a little bit higher. So sticking to the game plan, waiting for those bottoming signals to come into play. Here we go there. We're starting to run into 62 on the TQs. So I will slowly take some out here. And then the next target is going to be 62.50 when we take out the majority of the position. And then we're going to leave the rest for a runner, just in case we want to run into 63 or anything along those lines. So here we go. Nice look here on the TQs. I wanted to tell you, I watched have you seen the Hugh Grant A24 movie?
Is it?
It's like, yeah, it's like relative. It came out last year. Heretic.
Yes.
Yeah,
oh my God, I heard really good
it's
things
so
about
good. It's actually so good. Yeah, definitely watch it because I know you're an A24 fan as well as me. I forgot that Moonlight was made by A24. Yeah, there's so many good A24. Lighthouse is a really good one with Robert Patterson. And everything. So yeah, I was fun, and I just thought of you when I turned it on there. But what do you got going on?
Yeah, I mean, also, just shout out to A24. A lot of the movies in that Florida core genre of just like beautifully lit movies in Florida are A24 as well. So shout out Spring Breakers, Florida Project, all that. But Spring Breakers is an underrated movie, which is an essay I will say for another day.
That's with Riff-Raff and Selena Gomez, isn't it?
Oh, well, it's not Riff-Raff. It's James Franco playing a hard knockoff of Riff-Raff.
Exactly.
But I literally wrote an essay on this when I was in undergrad. I love this movie, but not the point. The point is meta here is above VWAP. Sorry, guys, I'm not in any positions. I'm waiting to strike because I don't want to rush into anything. Meta's above VWAP, so I still like this. The thing is, risk is a bit tricky here. I'd probably give it to that area I liked earlier, 595.70. So if we continue to hold here, this is basically 590. If I see a hold of 599, I will get long. But I need to wait because the stuff I'm seeing on the book right now is not super indicative of that. Let's get a look at App 11 because that is the other one I'm waiting here for it. Okay, yeah, App 11 ran off without me. That's fine. I wanted to get long here above VWAP or short if we couldn't hold VWAP. And we got above VWAP. I was like, I'm not going to get filled here. Obviously I didn't. So we're going to have to wait and watch to see what happens. If we cannot clear this 255, I actually think it's still a short. But if we can clear 255, I'm going long. I say this a lot. I don't like being directionally biased at all because I find when I am, I run into trouble. So I just like to have levels I like and see what happens at those levels. So MSTR here, I like. We're above VWAP. I could reasonably risk this, I think. Okay, I really like this now. So I would give this to 254.40s. I want to see us clear, though, this prior bar high on the 3 of 258.20s, which is also a little bit of support right off the open. So I want to see what happens there, but I'm going to switch to my MSTR order book. I think MSTR is probably the most viable for me right now. So we're going to have to wait and see how much would have to raise there. Yeah, that's fine. So we're going to get into this Mr., as I like to call it, M to the S, T to the R. So people were asking about STSS, so I'm going to get into that for a moment. And yeah, this book is starting to get grimy. So I'm going to get into STSS. So STSS here, as I wait to see what I'm going to do with MSTR. And again, I apologize for not being in trades, but I don't want to force it. STSS. So Sharif has his small cap rules. I'm not a small cap trader, so I'm going to assess them based on the rules of the master of this show. STSS is above VWAP, and it's quite above its pre-market high. That being said, you would probably want to wait for a VWAP bounce here. And again, I am not a small cap person, so my look is purely going to be based on what I'm seeing on the chart here. But I like the fact that we have not gotten below the support area above VWAP on the way up, which is at 55.7 cents. Right now, though, my knowledge of the order book from what I just look at for spready stocks, it looks kind of indecisive. I want to see clear directionality to the upside or the downside. Let's see what you do at VWAP. That's my take here on ST to the S to another S. Ooh. There's also here Amazon well above VWAP with big green candles, says Groff. Let's take a look here at AMZN. And shout out to Obi, the former Amazon man beside me here. Wow, okay, I see what you mean, Groff, with this trade. The thing, too, that concerns me about Amazon, and this is the same thing I said with App 11, we're heading to the upside, but we are below an area that could potentially result in a flip. So by that, I mean this level here on Amazon, which is going to be that 190. I can't believe we're below 200. 196.70s. We're right now actually rejecting this little candle spike we got, which was also off this pre-market support, and that would be here around 195.70s. I think if we can't reclaim 195.70s, Amazon might still be in trouble. That's just my take on the chart, just based on things that I look for. And also, Harry Lou had a great question in the chat saying, because today's lesson was about psychology, can we wax poetic a little bit about revenge trading? I absolutely would love to do that. And I think the thing too, it's really it's difficult. I think it's more something that you'll realize while you're in it, even if you don't admit it to yourself. But I think for myself, some techniques to avoid revenge trading: don't look at the P&L, follow your rules. If you have clear rules and you're committed to following those rules, chances of revenge trading might go down a bit. Take a walk. Take yourself away from the situation, and don't put pressure on yourself to be in a trade every second. I did lose on Netflix. That was fine. I didn't lose more than I was planning on because I had my stop, but I lost in the trade, so I'm not rushing into anything right now. I have stuff I like, but if the setup doesn't hit for me, I'm not gonna get involved, because I also think, from my experience, I run the risk of revenge trading or getting into that mindset if I get involved in something too early. If I rush into a trade, then I lose on it, then I'm gonna be like, oh, what happened? You're gonna get into that negative mindset. Be patient, wait for the trades to set up, because if you start the day in a good place, you're much more likely to end the day in a good place. And so that is my TED Talk on revenge trading. Okay, Meta.
Okay, Meta. What's
Yo,
Meta?
Meta, what are you? Okay. I want to see Meta close a red candle here. If we do, I'm risking here. This is right above 600. I like it even more.
Okay.
Yeah, Meta, I'm talking hard short Meta right now. Ooh. I want to see what we do here. And I would actually add to the short if we break below this 596 level. So that's going to be my target right now. That MSTR long I was liking would not have worked out. It's a good thing we didn't rush into it. But both MSTR and app near VWAP right now, so there's some potential entries. Meta, though, right now Meta's back above VWAP. So Meta, if you can close a red candle below VWAP, you're going to be my star, best pony in the show, and I'm going to get involved in that trade. Sorry, guys, for the speed. I talk fast because these markets move quickly, and I got to match it up. So that's what we're going to do here, META. How are you doing over here, Joe?
We're good. We're starting to piece them out here on the TQs, Adira. I just want to add to just hulking out, I guess I used to refer to, or revenge trading. I think one of the hardest skills to acquire in day trading is walking away. I think that Obi might agree with this, Adira might, Sharif, and a lot of the traders, it's just walking away from your screen and getting away when you should be, right? With just not trading. It's like, okay, you went 0 for 4 on a trade. You have a 4 trade limit. It's just just get up and leave. There's going to be tomorrow. There's always going to be a second half of the session or whatever it may be. And I think amongst traders, especially for me in my earlier days, was just having the ability to say, all right, I'm not in sync with the market today. Whatever I'm doing isn't working. I'll be back tomorrow to see what's going on. And I think that's once you master that skill, then I think the veteran traders would agree is then you're much better off. So revenge trading, it happens because you want to be right. It's the fear of being wrong, and you don't like being wrong. We're not raised. We weren't programmed to be wrong all the time, right? When we go to school, you have tests, etc. You need to be right. It doesn't matter anything else. So just take that into consideration. You have to hardwire your brain. You have to rewire everything to accept the fact that, hey, I may not be right today. I may not be right tomorrow. But as long as I just stick with the same mindset and stick to the game plan, then eventually I will be right. All right. So just keep that into consideration. And that's just what I do. It takes years to acquire that skill. You're not going to learn it overnight. You're going to go through pain. There's growing pains with everything. So take that into consideration. You're not alone. Everybody's gone through it. And once you have the ability to hone in and acquire that skill, you're going to be a much better off intraday trader. But here we go. Pulling back here. Quite deep is the market, rejecting the volume-weighted average price, guys. Is this going to be a potential add opportunity? If I don't get stopped out, 117 is my average, 61.17, and it looks like this pullback is going to be relatively deep. If we can hold this resistance level, then I'll have some more confidence to add right back into this this trade and make it larger. We took out half of it right now, so we're sitting on about 50%. I'm willing to get stopped out, break even, so take that in. Let's see what everybody else in the chat is saying. For me, it was getting burnt many of times. Then I learned exactly, Oscarito, you go through the process, you go through those growing pains, and then eventually you're like, oh, it's just not worth it. I was off to a pretty good start, then it turned around, wasn't good for me. And then you don't want to ruin your day just because you were wrong once or twice or anything along those lines. Monty G says, great point. And yeah, this might be a shakeout candle. This is what I'm hoping for. If we come back into the middle of the range here, Adara, then I might be in some trouble on this trade, but that's okay. We'll wait for a possible a second entry because we've got a really nice move all the way up here, holding on to 50%. I only have about 10 cents left before I get stopped out break even. I'm not going to make a winning trade, a losing one, that's for sure. So I'm looking for these key levels to hold, and that's the game plan. Palantir now trading below the volume weighted average price. NVDA rejecting VWAP quite aggressively here, guys. So we'll take that in. If the Q's tech heavy, you have to follow these big names, and if they want to sell off, the Qs are going to participate. So keeping this primary downtrend intact here. Attaboy, Obi. What do you got going on there, my guy? Intel short. Nice. Obi's trading Intel. Working out really nice for him, I'm assuming, because we're getting the claps, but we're holding on. Oh, here we go, Adair. We're going to have to punch out of this trade because we are now at the break even. We'll wait to get back in if this level can hold and then possibly break through the volume weighted average price, but it's not looking too good for the longs. I should have added multiple times to this trade because you can see we got this extended move, over $1 move here with this add, and then going up to 62.20, putting in this hammer candle right now. If we hold this base, then I'll hop right back in, but not going to make a winner, a loser. My guy 2NY, let's see. It's been a very hard month to gauge anything. I actually just slowed down, just decided to wait. If I do get in on a stock, I make a small entry and put a short leash on it. Well, I agree with you. Sizing down is important, but you also want to widen the risk. Why? Listen to what Obi said this morning. The VIX is up, right? So if the VIX is up, what does that mean? The average true range within the underlyings on a day-to-day basis are going to move more. So you're going to have more price fluctuation, okay? So you have to widen those stops in heightened volatility sentiment. That's the way it works. Otherwise, you're going to be getting stopped out quite often. That's why I like to put my stops at the bases or above resistance. I like it below support or above resistance. That way, if price comes into those levels, I still have a little bit of a wall or some defense in front of me, all right? So that's what you need to do. That's what I'm doing for this heightened volatility market is I'm going less size and wider stops. Adair, what do you got going on there?
Yeah, speaking of stops being wide or too tight, I have a feeling we're going to get stopped out of Meta here, which is, yeah, we did. That's cool. Oh, the slippage on this is not, okay, I had more slippage on Meta than I had on Netflix, which, hello. So Meta 50-cent slippage, I did get stopped out. My stop here initially was, so I got short here, 597.40s, and that was just because that was the prior bar low on the 3 and also on the 5, and we were below VWAP. I wanted a red candle below VWAP. I knew that there was a risk on this trade, and that risk was A, we were above the 90 MA, B, we could have a potential 596 bounce, and C, it looked kind of bull flaggy below VWAP. So with all of that in mind, I knew there were some factors, so I did lower my stop there to the 5-minute prior bar high as we got a new one that ended up being around 599. As mentioned, I got 50-cent slippage because I was like, I put my stop just below 599, ended up being 599.40s where we got stopped out. So that is not the vibe, but you know what? We're going to chill. We're going to breathe. I do apologize. I'm not in a lot of trades right now because I'm just waiting for stuff to set up, and this has not been necessarily like a great day. I'm definitely red on the day, but I'm not looking at my P&L because I don't do that. I'm risking appropriately for each trade and for each setup, and that's what matters at the end of the day, full stop. MSGR is interesting here. I initially liked it as a long above VWAP, but I said I wanted to see and be very cognizant of what we're going to do here around some of these areas of support around the open set, like 258, 259. We can't hold that right now. So if we can break back below VWAP, and then if we can break back below that 255, which, as I mentioned, an area of interest for me, I am going to be so short this thing, it's not even funny. But I have no reason to short it yet. So we're chilling. We're breathing. Because Chief Sethi asking, do we have a trade mentorship program? We have the campus program if you are in Canada, or I guess any country that's not the US as far as I know. So the campus program is great. They have meetups. It's really cool. That is also, we have Wayne and Brankles from our floor, shout out. They help run that program. So that's a great look here. With regards to the campus program, we don't have actually any mentors, unfortunately, here. So that is kind of what is going on there. Is Trump going to speak or something, says SBP Trader. Trump is sort of. It's sort of. So we have a tech roundtable at 2 p.m. Unclear what that's going to entail. And then at 3 p.m., we have more executive orders being signed. So Trump will be likely posing with some more executive orders, as he is wont to do. That will be happening again at 3, but apparently there's not going to be any press for either the 2 p.m. event or the 3 p.m. event. Likely there will be comments after the fact. So Redfin was another ticker that I saw some people asking about. Why did I add an I where there didn't need to be one? This is not Google. This is on a 5-letter ticker, Adara. RD to the F to the N. Redfin up a wild 72%. Okay.
Ooh.
This is interesting. So we have a ton of support here. This is just insane support at $9.70. I suspect Sharif would like this support. But by the small cap rules, it would be untradeable because it's below the pre-market high of roughly just under $11. And it's also below VWAP. However, this RDFN, if we can keep making these higher highs, higher lows, or I guess if we make a higher low from here on 9 EMA, I don't think it's a bad look. I think if we break 970, I think this would get kind of dicey. I think that Redfin would be very red, as, you know, on my list if it breaks below that 970. But this is not something I'd be paying for shorts for because it is a little baby cap, and I'm not comfortable with those. So with this in mind too, I want to mention the stop move on Meta. I initially said that could have been a little bit too early to move my stop in Meta to the 5-minute prior bar, but I'm happy I did. Why? Because I recognized that the risk had changed, the parameters had changed, and if I had left my stop at $600.30, A, I knew that I was probably wrong at that point, and B, given the slippage, I think we would have gotten hit even harder. I've talked a lot about just waiting and holding for my stops and letting things hit, but sometimes you have to move the stop within your parameters. And in this case, I made the right call by doing that. So always be a little bit, be flexible, but also be willing to stick to the main plan. Mark Susie asking about Meta short. I have Meta on the brain. I was short Meta, Mark, and with that in mind, because I was in this trade, because I was watching this on this push up past VWAP and on the way down, I think VWAP doesn't even matter at this point for Meta. I want to see us break below 596. That to me is I will fully short Meta if we get back below 596. If we don't, I'm not going to. And I've talked about my 3-strike rule. My other thing with the 3-strike rules, if I'm going to take a second pop at a stock on the same kind of setup, I have to wait for it to hit a different low if it's a short or to hit a different high if it's a long. Otherwise, I'm just beating up a stock at the same level for no reason, and that's when you might get a little tilty. So as the stock changes, you have to change your approach a bit. I have waxed poetic enough. How you doing, Joe?
Yeah, we're back into the TQs. Good stuff there, Adara. We're back in it. We got a little pop, but the thing is, what we need to take into consideration here is that we couldn't construct a new high or break through it. NVDA wants to move against the volume-weighted average price. It's rejecting VWAP, so we need to take that into consideration as well, too. If these big names are selling, it's hard to get these pops in the TQs. I see people in the chat referring, hey, we've now switched from a bull market to a bear market. I mean, with the Qs being down probably north of 10%, from those all-time highs, I can agree with you. The sentiment has changed, and it's not deniable, really. You can't. There's not much of an argument for the other side of the party here. So we'll take a look from a percentage metric what we got going on. From peak to the bottom here. So now running into that 13%, 12 and a quarter there, guys. I mentioned, hey, we broke through this support level. Now we're going to look for the next level. We have now breached that to the downside. So it's like, okay, what are we going to look for? What is the next pivot that is really stand out? Where's that next resistance level that can act as support? And for me, I think that we come all the way down to 450, to be honest with you. This is not looking good. This momentum is extremely aggressive to the downside. Every pop is getting faded. We can't construct new highs. We're rejecting the volume-weighted average price, and you need to take this into consideration from a day trading perspective, all right? And just try to follow this sentiment. If we break this candle low, I'm probably going to get out of this trade. We don't want to climb any higher. PLTR is still holding above the volume-weighted average price, but it's just not heavily weighted enough to drag the market up with it, but it is relatively strong compared to some of these Mag 7 names. Microsoft now hovering below the VWAP as well too, guys, so we'll hold on to this position until otherwise, but buying these pops isn't looking too good. Needed to see, one thing that I'm kicking myself about is I should have added a little bit more into here considering this move that we got, over $1 move, and I should have, I was like, I think this is the oversold bounce, because considering from a technical standpoint, what I was referring to you guys is that we have this volume signature that engulfed the rest close to that 5-minute opening drive, and then you get that indecision print right beside it, right alongside it there, guys. So yeah, we'll wait. Is the market going to completely turn around? Possibly. The Qs are down closer to 4%, so we'll take that into perspective as well, guys. So let's see what everybody else is in the chat. If you want us to go over any names, just put it in the chat, and we will do so. We'll go over some technical analysis and hold on to what we got going on. So you're not in anything. You're being more patient. You're waiting for it. Yeah, which is smart. Yeah. Waiting for those signals, and that's just where you know yourself, right? You want to be patient. Wait for that setup. If it doesn't work out, then just get out of the trade and wait for those definitive signals. And that's what we try to do time and time again. I really like these bottoming signals here on the TQs, and they came into play. If I got into, see, this is what I'm working on lately, guys, is I want my entries to be as precise to the penny as possible. I was watching some videos over the weekend, and it's like, this is like a game of sense, right? This is a game of sense, and the closer you get your entry to that target that you want, the better you are from a risk to reward standpoint. So if I got in right at the break of this candle to the high at 60.61 instead of me getting in 38 cents later, look at my risk to reward. I can then add here, right? So my initial entry would be here. I can then add here, being able to hold through this pullback and then recognizing this candle where I can add into the position to make the winner even larger, all right? So that is the game plan for me. So Tesla, okay, we'll go over some tickers in the chat, what everybody's looking at. So we got Apple and Tesla, we'll go over those. I took my my chart off of Apple because it was just continuing to bleed and not looking good. I think it's down over 10 points on the day, which is not a good look for AAPL here, guys. So opening up at 235 and then trading as low as 225. So that is not a good look here in Apple. I was referring, it was holding up relatively stronger than the rest of the Mag 7, but it just capitulated and gave up the rest. Gonna run into some support levels here around 220, it looks like, because you can see the strength in these selling candles. That selling pressure is fully alive, guys. So the pullback's not relatively strong, buyers not stepping in aggressively, but then the sellers step right in aggressively and push price right down. So 220 is going to be that next target, in my opinion. It may not happen today on Apple, but it will come into play, I think, at some point. But what I want to do is pull up the options chain to see where we have high levels of open interest and if they can possibly come into play. And what do I do as soon as I open this week's expiration cycle? Where do I see the highest level of open interest on the out the money puts is right at 220 with 9.9 thousand contracts currently open at that level. So it might come into play relatively soon before the end of the week here, Adara. So not a good look in some of these tech names.
Yeah, I mean, certainly a little bit dicey. We know the NASDAQ sold off for 3 weeks in a row there, the Qs. But I'm in a trade now. So that's cool. I'm in an AAPL again. And I have talked about my 3-strike rule. I want to clarify. This is actually my 2nd strike. Now you might be like, but Adara, there's a purple candle over there. There is a purple triangle over there. And that is because I had a fat finger moment. I wanted to go long. And then I accidentally pressed short. And then I got out of my short because I had to follow my rules. And then, yeah. So the point, like all of my weird British accent aside, I do not count this as an attempt. And that is purely because it was a fat finger and I was trying to go long. Clearly, fat finger saved lives, as I used to say sometimes, and that ended up being a good thing. We got the fat finger there because the long wouldn't have worked, but still got cut up in it. The point is I don't consider it an attempt as a short because I wasn't trying to go short. So with that in mind, we're in our 2nd attempt at this AAPL short. Now, why am I short AAPL above VWAP and above the 9 EMA and all that stuff? As I mentioned, I think that 255 area was going to be like a hard level for me to watch. Well, not only are we not at 255 yet, we pretty harshly rejected below 254s. And the other thing, too, that I like about this, generally when I see this pattern of we try to push up and we get a big old ugly red candle, the chances of this to me continuing higher are a little bit iffier. And of course, that's just from my own perspective. So I'm risking $2 here. I got short 250.70, as you can see. I am risking here to this 3-minute candle here, 250.270. Now, this might not be, quote, real risk. Maybe I should have given it to the 254s. I did not size for that. I did not plan for that. And that's okay. I'm not moving my stop yet because I don't have a reason to. I want to see us break below 9 EMA. If we can break below the 9 EMA, and if we can get kind of into this 250 area, just below 250, I have no qualms adding to this position. And yes, adding, I guess, like a couple dollars in the money. It's a choice, but like I said, with spready tickers, these things move dollars, and you have to respond to that accordingly. And I also want to be more cognizant of wider term levels because I want to talk about Netflix. I was in the Netflix short and I did get stopped out after I was like $5 in the money, which is obviously, and I didn't take any profit on that. That's not a vibe. But you know what makes it more not a vibe, Joe, is when I look back at my 15-minute chart and I have this bar here and I'm like, oh, no wonder we bounced there.
Yep.
So, Adara, have your profit takers ready next time. But again, I'm not going to cry over spilled shares. I traded the plan. I should have been more cognizant of that trade. That was a big L for me, especially because I'm not joking when I tell you guys, I had the trading view chart up the whole time. So why I was looking at that and not noticing the glaring blue bar, I have no idea. But that's the thing. You have to take L's sometimes so that you can make more M's. Shout out to our man, 21 Savage. So that's what's happening here. Thank you, Monty G, saying thanks for the show. Appreciate that. Yeah, it's the song More M's from him and Drake on Her Laws. Taking less L's, making more M's, and that's about all of that song we can rap without getting censored. So that's going on. Trump must be talking, says Katie Dompster. To my knowledge, he is not set to speak until that roundtable at 2. I'll keep an eye on it. X has been really on and off today, so that's a big X to that one. I do not like the fact that X is doing that. Oh my gosh, Meta, hello. I just saw my chart and I see Miss Meta hanging out all pretty here around that 596 level I liked. I want to see his break below 596 on the ask, and then I'll get involved. I'll risk it to 598.30s, which is I think about the same. It's like around that view up area. Okay, time to strike. How much do I risk? Yeah, that's appropriate. Let's go. I have a feeling we're actually not going to maybe get this fill. I was not hasty enough on that, but I'm going to attempt it regardless because I like the trade and I like this 596, and I honestly don't think we have any issues here. Okay, there we go. Perfect. We got filled. Time to set our stop. We're going to do 598. We'll do 32s. I like to give it a couple cents, and I want to shout out Sean for that because I was having an issue where I was just getting stopped out of like every trade, and I was like, why am I doing that? Yeah, it's because I was putting the stop right at the support or resistance level instead of giving it a little bit of wiggle room. So that's my take on that. Also, I like this question from Harry Lou. Do you find on spreadier names that it's harder to get filled as the market makers go around your limit orders? Sometimes, I think the bigger issue is sometimes you get like wicked out. Like there was a period, like I said, where I just felt really stop hunted. And I think sometimes too, like it does give you that sense, and it sucks because you could be off, you can get wicked out, and then it goes like another $30, and you feel that a lot more acutely when you trade spready names because they can make these massive moves. There was an app love and trade. I'll see if I can find it in my Google Drive on Thursday. And I had gotten short, I think just below 300. I got stopped out at 292, so I still took profit on it. But then the thing dropped another like multiple dollars, and it ended up going to like 262s or I left $30 on the table just because of my stop placement. So you do really want to give it enough room that you can breathe, that you can have that wiggle room. Speaking of app Lubman, we are still on that short. This is APP. Given the fact that we're kind of bouncing off that 250, A, that makes me even more confident in adding if we get below 250. B, that makes me think we might get stopped out. I kept my stop here 250, 260s, but now that we've rejected this 252 area once, twice, 3 times, I might actually have to move my stop to 252s. I think that would be fair for the trade. This has not been my best day. I'm not going to lie to you guys. Like I said, we're red on the day. I don't love that. 3-day green streak. We're red. But you have to take each day as it comes. So that's going to be the thing. I could not believe, Joe, that it is already 12:01 p.m. So happy afternoon to everybody. Thank you for being here with us. Tony's saying who's down with OPP. So I got to say, and you know me.
He always says that stuff to me.
I mean, it's a great quote there. So hope everyone's having a great day. Tag me if you have any questions, if you have anything that you want us to go over, because that's what we do here at Trader TV.
That's exactly what we do. Do you have like a specific day of the week where you tend to be red or anything? Do you have from your data collection?
I had like, so there's January Fridays, hard red, 3 days in a row. Since then, I actually have found that's not the case. Now I find it really just Tuesdays sometimes, but it really just depends on like what my purpose was that day. I used to feel like that a lot. Now I kind of don't notice that as much, but I think sometimes it depends on the market. It depends on or any specific things happening that day every week. But I try not to think about that too much. Superstition. Do you have a day like that?
Yeah, I did. I used to, for me, it used to be Wednesdays for some reason. Yeah, Wednesdays, I couldn't get anything going for the longest period of time. So what did I do there? I just stopped trading on Wednesdays. And then sure enough, again, I'm red on the session as well too here, guys. This market wants to continue to bleed. It's time to flip this bias. Sell any form of pop. We're not getting that continuation to the top side here. Buyers they're just not engaging. right? So it's fully sellers engaged here, and now we're running into some key support levels. If we break through this, I'm just going to get out of this trade. Looking for it to climb higher, but you can see this descent that we've been on in the TQs here, guys. Can't even construct a new a higher high or anything along those. It's all lower highs there, guys. So it's time for me to abandon the thesis and find something to the short side possibly, especially if this trade doesn't work out. But yeah, as of right now, it was Wednesdays for me, and then now Mondays I've had a couple of red days, but then the rest of the week has been, last week was, I went 4 for 5 for green days. Yeah. So let's see if we can continue that today. I got to flip the bias to Dare if I want to continue this green streak, because these pops are just getting sold here on every pop. So yeah, we'll just have to be patient here, guys. Let's see what everybody else in the chat says. I only had one red day this year. Nice drop trades. Good work there. Congrats. Someone said they also used to have it on Fridays. What do I think? Stevenson says, what do you think about NVIDIA coming back to the low of day? Yeah, it's weak. Extremely weak, something that I'm going to avoid. I think we see sub 100 in this name, so NVDA not looking too good. I mentioned last week that a lot of these hyperscalers are starting to build their own chips. What does that mean for NVDA? Taking away some market share there, even though they're using they might be for their own use, but again, not too good. Look, pops being sold off, the bounces are just short covering. Exactly, I agree with you there, Pug Life. Tesla, yeah, we'll take a look at that. I promised that we would. What about XWEL? It's a defensive penny stock. Yeah, we'll take a look at that. But I'm going to have to get out of this TQs trade, guys. Not looking too good here on these longs. So I'm going to wait, be patient, wait for another pop, and then just look to fade it, because I'm not getting any continuation to the top side. This was the one that worked out really well for us, but everything else. So the accuracy on this ticker has not been good, so I'm going to avoid it. Going to stick to those rules, not getting any of those moves that we're looking for, so got to abide by them. Here we are, Tesla making an additional leg down. TSLL down 20%. That is absolutely insane. TSLL.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry,
Tesla being down 10%. So it's a 2x here. So Tesla would be half of the TSLL, guys, continuing to bleed that downside momentum. You can see the volume on the lower time frames really start to pick up. That is not a positive sign for any form of bounce here. So gonna have to stick with that short bias. Let's see what Pug Life says. Market is in the negative gamma and VIX is high. You're right. Let's take a look at the VIX here, guys, because I bet you it spiked drastically. I got to pull up my trading view because my other platform is not working, and we'll see what the VIX is up to. And I wonder if we're north of 30 here on the volatility index, the fear index. All right, so a spike up to 2662 here in the VIX. So guys, this is what I was referring to earlier, is that when you see this spike in the VIX, we're now breaking through some key resistance levels, but check the average true range from a daily standpoint on all your tickers, and you're gonna see it's on the incline, right? It's gonna pick up, so you're gonna have to widen stops, okay? And that goes with your options as well too. So with a heightened VIX comes heightened options premium. You have to take that in, and with that comes more fluctuation within your contracts. We went over it last week, I believe, what gamma does and how you get those gamma squeezes in heightened volatility, because when those out the money contracts start to trade in the money, that's when that gamma is at its greatest, okay? And then that's when you can get those gamma squeezes, and traders need to start hedging, and then everybody starts to hit panic mode. So what do? You have to trade further dated contracts, whether you be writing or buying options, okay? So take that into consideration. If you want to stabilize the fluctuation within your day-to-day contracts, you need to go farther dated out, okay? So that is the VIX really heightened. I thought that selling some 30 calls would be a good idea, but Brankles told me no. He's like, Joe, we're on the incline. The sentiment has changed. We're down 13% now in the Qs. You need to look to be buying these calls in the VIX, or at least be selling puts where you have a long bias, and that you're not going to get these drastic drops in volatility. So take that into consideration and implement that into your day-to-day practice. But I'm going to wait for a potential pop here in the market Adara and then look to fade it, because it seems to be the narrative of this session.
Yeah, I mean, I think too, fading some things might be great. And then you've got situations like Meta where I am like, girl, you realize you are a Make 7 name and the NASDAQ is dropping below VWAP and you're below VWAP, right? Like, and I say this as a joke, whatever. I'm still short Meta, 596s. And I will add to this short if we get below 595. But the reason I'm like joking, I'm like, Meta, do you know what's going on? Is because Meta is just trucking along here, holding support beautifully at 595, which was not even really a level I had clocked. And that being said, we're still below VWAP, we're also below the 90 MA, and we're making lower lows into these areas with a flat bottom of 595s. So if we get below 595s, I'm adding. And that's what I mean by saying that I don't like having like set, if I'll add, like I guess, I don't like to have a set like additions or DCAs. If an area sets up that I think is a great DCA, I will have zero qualms. I will be qualmless, as I used to say, about getting involved. And with that in mind, given that this META is showing me this 595 support, if we get below that, I'll add. And I will actually double. I have no problem doubling up at 595. That is how much I like it. I have moved my stop to just above 598, which is more or less that VWAP area. Should I move it to above VWAP? Maybe. But given that massive slippage I had on my first Meta attempt, I want to be extremely careful about doing so, especially if I add. And I will add if we get to 595, if Meta will have me. And with that in mind, Joe, I really like what you had to say there about your risk with regards to the VIX and this volatility in the market. And there's different ways of doing that, right? Like what you can do sometimes too is just size down. If I want to give a wider stop for something like a Meta or an AAPL or a spready ticker, I have no problem doing the wider stop, but maybe I'll size down to give it more room because like I said, on a spready ticker, sometimes you do have to give it $5, $6 and you can't lose off of that, but you do have to give it the space and you have to be willing, depending on your stock, to take that risk either with maybe with less size, or with more size, depending, or what you're going to do there with regards to the placement of your stop. So it really does depend. You have to take your time and figure that out for yourself before entering the trade. Also, I am pleased as punch to say AAPL is doing quite well. So APP here, we're below VWAP. And yes, I took the short above VWAP and the 90 MA. But like I said, I had no issue doing with it because when I see this type of setup where we're trying to push up and then we immediately give it all back in one candle, that to me is always going to be a short, or at least I'm not going to look to go long there. So I want it as a short. We're below VWAP now. I was willing to add at 250s, as I mentioned. I didn't get the add, so I didn't chase it. I'm not going to add here. There's nowhere where I want to add here. This to me is a no man's land for additions. But now that we're below VWAP, I'm breathing pretty easy in my AAPL. I'm AAPL in this trade. So I'm going to stay in this. We're going to be using 5-minute prior bars at this point for the stop. I'm going to have to move my stop, I think, as well. So when we get back above VWAP, will I panic? Not at all. Why? Because the trade isn't wrong for me until we get those parameters met, right? Like the 5-minute prior bars. So we're going to hang out. I would love this 244.30 I liked on the book and I like it on the chart. So if 244.30 hits, absolutely, I am going to be taking out some profit there. I took a piece out just above VWAP for, it's VWAP. That was the reason. This META is, okay, I like the fact that we kind of false broke into that 598. Usually when that happens, that tends to give you a bit of confidence. But the fact that we're still above this 595 and making marginally higher highs on the 3-minute, I don't like at all. I'm happy I didn't add till I saw the break below 595. I have a feeling, especially with this 80-cent spread, if I get stopped out, there's going to be like slippage city on this. But I'm going to chill because you accept the risk going into the trade. You cannot panic. You just got to chill, live your life. Hey, shout out to Rihanna and T.I. So I actually went to that concert. That was pretty good. But let's keep an eye on META here. Tesla being mentioned by a lot of people. Go Dracula, go, says Tony. That is just a fantastic way of describing Tesla because these shorts are sucking the blood out of this name. Someone was asking here, did we have a SSR setup play potentially for TSLA? I don't think we mentioned it, though. Joe mentioned TSLL is down 20%. For me with Tesla, and I mean, I think Obi would probably be a better person to talk about with this. We know he had that awesome Tesla short earlier. But here's my thing with Tesla. We had attempted a little bit of support here at 237. I think if we can get above that support and then we can kind of get above this other part of the range here, that'd be around that 241s. I don't think that's a bad look, but I also think at that point you might be grasping at straws. When I see this 15-minute chart, I'm going to be honest with you. There is nothing here that is screaming at me a potential bounce, and that even includes the 237 because right now we're kind of trying to push below that. So what I would do then to the person who asked that question is look at the different time frames. Look to, for example, a green 60-minute bar if we haven't had one yet, which we have not. 30-minute, I guess we kind of did have one, so maybe not the 30, but look at the 60. And because we've only had red 60-minute bars this whole time, maybe say, hey, for example, if we get a green 60-minute bar, that might be with other confluence a buy signal, right? So I would say look for some significant change in trend, either consistent higher highs, higher lows, a green bar in a larger time frame, what have you. Right now, honestly, I am not seeing those. So that's what's happening there for that trade. App 11 is just chef's kiss.
Ooh.
I really like what this is doing.
That's your next target?
Oh, I'm already in it.
Nice.
My next target's there. Yeah, sorry.
Oh, yeah, that's your next target. Nice,
sorry,
nice.
Yeah. I'm going to move my stop here, I think, right now, Joe. But I like that this 246 bounce. That was a bit of a level 2 when I was in this short earlier, so we'll see. But I did not have that much size to begin with. Like I said, I did size down a bit on this because of the fact we were above VWAP in the 9 EMA. So we're going to wait and see. I'm going to move my stop on this trade. And Meta is, I think at this point, probably, I'm just going to get stopped out. But I have no problem with that. I have no reason to leave the trade, so I won't. I abandoned my friend MSTR. So story, Mr. Looking really kind of similar to the last ticker we just looked at, which I think was App. I don't want to rush into this, but this 252 kind of slumped to the downside, bit of a flat bottom locally. I don't hate, but not hating something is not enough for me to get into the trade. So we're going to wait and see what happens there. How are you doing on that side of the desk?
Nice. Thank you for that, Adair. Yeah, we're in some TSLL here now, guys, looking for this bounce off of these lows. So you can see that we broke through the support level and then headed lower. As the vampire, you can't stop the bleeding, just sucking the blood and the life out of Tesla, unfortunately. So we're going to look for this bounce. If we can't get anything along this prior support, then I'm just going to get out, because that can mean, hey, there's no one willing to step in and buy this name, and then sellers have the ability, if some big sellers step in, push price right back down. So we are currently running into it. I wouldn't mind if it bounced, obviously, but again, you can see that we are running into the support level, and what the next target will be is this resistance level. So we'll hold on to that. We'll see if we can get this bounce, if we can continue to climb and squeeze through some of these key support and resistance zones, then I will add to the position. But right now, I'm not in the money enough in order for me to do so. Tony, nice. Yeah, it's not looking too good, to be honest with you. I talk about just fading all these pops, and it's probably going to come into play here on Tesla. We do have bottoming signals. You can see that on the 5-minute time frame. You have that stair-step type price action, and then look at the selling pressure. There's essentially no buyers stepping in, and then sellers will just step in and push it back down. So we're going to hold on to this position. If not, I'm going to have to sit on my hands for a little while. Don't want to risk. You got to take into consideration we have to worry about shutdown as well, especially with my performance on the TQs. Not good, not up to my standards, but that's okay. It's only Monday, and I know there will always be another day, and there's always going to be another trade. Apple still getting taken behind the woodshed here, Adair, beaten to a pulp, not looking good. I would prefer some choppiness opposed to just this straight capitulation type price action, but it is what it is, and we got to work with what we have here, guys. So it's funny. And I like the lesson of the day is because we're all relayed the same information, but how we perceive it is totally up to you and subjective, right? So that's why there's no right trading style and there's no wrong trading style. Essentially, it's what you can do, how you refine your system, and how you can make that maximize the ability and the performance out of it. So yeah, here we go, guys. Starting to sell here is Tesla, looking like this is just going to be another breath, and then we take another leg to the downside. So more than 10% on Tesla itself. Not pretty, guys. Let me know what you're looking at in the chat. We're going to go over some names. If you have any options questions, be sure to put them in there. We'll go over it. Yeah, a lot of people talking about Tesla and X. I don't know if X gets back up. A lot of people are referring to it being hacked and it's not working right now. I haven't pulled it up since this morning. I don't usually look at it too much other than when I'm here. But yeah, let's see if we can get a pop. If we can hold this base, if we break it, then maybe I'll look for the short, put a stop up here, and then look for the continuation of this primary trend to the downside. So let's see what everybody's looking at. PLTR, yeah, for sure. We can go over some Palantir. I'm curious how it's holding up. Probably selling like the rest of the market. Let me pull this out. Let me unlock this. So yeah, Palantir, it did trade above the volume weighted average price for some time, but you can see if we were to pick up the time frames and zoom out a little bit and go to the 15-minute, primary downtrend still fully intact. So we'll take that into consideration. Oh, but we do have a couple super chats here, Adair, that we are going to go over. Marty, great crew, just getting back. So sorry if you addressed this, but what setup would you look for a Tesla SSR retracement? That's a good question. I'm in Tesla and it's breaking through the lows right now. So I don't know if you're going to get that. We're now down 11% or more on this name. I'm out of Tesla. Longs ain't working today. That is going to be, I promise you guys, the last attempt until there's some definitive signals here. So that is to take a look at Tesla. Big smile. Ooh, yeah, we already went over that one. 500. Yeah, he's trolling me there, guys, because I said 500 before 300, and we have now gone south of that 300 target that Kyle Burdett was referring to. So not a good look here in Tesla. And to be honest with you, I was thinking about just liquidating that position. I told you guys I have an average price of 200, and now we're down to 250 or south of 250. So what am I going to hold on to it? There's no point. I think at this point we're going to be able to get a better price in this name. So 235 and change here, guys. So 45 to 50% down off of those all-time highs. That is not a good look. Like I honestly don't even know what to say. You don't see that too often, to be honest with you, especially when I was extremely bullish in Tesla with him joining Donald Trump and working in Doge. I'm like, hey, this is going to be perfect for Elon, but it's been the total opposite of that. It has been horrendous for Elon and Tesla here, guys. And we got to take into consideration, Waymo is already on the ground, right? So we already have some autonomy vehicles, and he doesn't even have anything out. We were pricing a lot in. Now the market's starting to price in tariffs, and the big is the second half of that word is the ifs, and what's going on with that. So
yeah, I was gonna say, I like the setup there. It's not tear if, it's tear when.
Yeah, tear when, if anything, right? And what kind of bargaining tool Mr. Trump is going to use in that aspect. So really tough look. Apple continuing to the south side, the market continuing to the south side of Dara, and these tech names not looking good. I want to see what XLE is up to because I want to find something where I can possibly long. Oh, why aren't I trading the SQs? That's an idea, Joe. Trade the SQQ, all right? If you want to go long, just trade the SQs because the market is going down, and that is an inverse there, guys. So let's see what Harry Law says. Joe W., as the psychology shift to a bear bias, stop losses on swing positions become more important on names you are not married to long term. Now, while I'm in this for the long term, Harry Lou, this is in my long-term portfolio, but I'm totally thinking about just changing that. And let me know what you guys, let me know your opinions on this, all right? So I understand the HODL concept, but at what point are you going to HODL when you're like, okay, the market has potentially peaked. You can lock in a bunch of unrealized gains and then just buy in at lower prices. So I'm really debating this term HODL when you can just manage your accounts. Yeah, you can have something long term. I've been holding on to these positions for greater than a year. Okay, so that's long term, is it not? Right? So should I get out, or I'm like, this is me talking to myself, should I get out and wait for potentially better prices, lock in what I have unrealized, and then if the market continues to bleed, I can just buy back in at lower prices. So are you HODL? Just put it in the chat. Are you HODL, or are you pro HODL, or are you pro account management? And I think that's something that I need to sit down with myself and really ask those questions. Am I willing to sit through this volatility in the market and give up those unrealized gains, or do I want to manage my account and possibly reposition myself if the opportunity arises? Adair, I don't know how you feel about that.
Yeah, I mean, I honestly, like I've mentioned this, I am lucky enough to have access kind of through whatever kind of wild chance, I guess, to a financial manager. There's a word for this. Yeah, I guess financial advisor, that's the word I'm looking for. So through that, I do a lot of my investment, but because I know the market, I'm able to make smart decisions through that. So I don't feel like I'm in the dark, so I feel pretty lucky with that. But yeah, I have a financial advisor, so I do everything there, and I'm aware I'm very lucky to have that at my age as well. So not something I take for granted, but something I'm lucky enough to be able to access. So with that in mind here, I want to take a look at META, I'm still short. I added to this position, and I said hard stop, hard line. We break below 595, I'm adding. We broke below 595, I added 595. Currently like $2 in the money with the average, so I'm cool with that. I moved my stop to 597 because that was kind of this little wick here. A little bit of support, a little bit of resistance, 597. Bit arbitrary, I will admit, and I will, going forward, be moving my stop to 5-minute prior bar highs. That's the deal. I like this 592.50. I probably don't need to tell you guys why I like this. If you can see here, this was a little bit of resistance earlier. I think it might form to support, so I want to get a piece out for the dream. And with that in mind, I was trying, and sometimes like these areas that you like, I find, for the support resistance, you know, ads or takeouts, sometimes they work so well you don't even get filled. We just got filled here in AAPL, and initially I was looking to get filled on this one at 244.30s. That never happened, so I moved it to just below 245s. I also, interestingly enough, tried to add to this. I know I initially said I liked 250. I tried to add to this actually at like 246s, which was, of course, a little bit below where I was necessarily, or I guess this area, this 246, certainly below my initial entry price of that 250, almost 251 area. But if I like the area, I don't mind getting it a little bit lower, necessarily adding a bit lower, regardless the ad didn't come. So that is indeed a moot point. My current stop here for AAPL is the 5-minute prior bar high just below 247. I'm more than cool with that. But we have 2 profit takers taken, and I have no plans for taking the rest of this profit anytime soon. So unless it gets stopped out, I'm in this AAPL for the app long haul. Ooh. And this is META, and this is what I meant sometimes about you place these areas at places you think might bounce, and they bounce before you can even get filled. So my price here is 592.51s. We clearly could not get to 592.51s. I might move it to 75s, but even then, as you can see here, I did give it like an extra 25, 50 cents above the true resistance area around 592s. So we'll have to wait and see. There's nothing telling me to get out of this. And also this meta trade is probably the biggest part of my thesis. I've talked about this a lot. If I don't get stopped out, I'm not leaving. I knew it looked pretty bad for me when we were pushing into VWAP, but I wasn't stopped out. So I didn't get out. And so I stayed in META, happy I did. Clearly that ended up working out well enough to even give us an addition. This APP here is now above that 5-minute prior bar, so I'm going to have to move my stop on this, Joe. But before we go send things back here, I want to look at Robinhood. Nice little baby bounce in the market, I guess, pushing these things higher. Here's Robinhood. Someone asked us here for Robinhood. I think it was Champs in the chat. Please and thank you, Robinhood. I have to tell you, Robinhood looks a little bit like the hockey stick pattern that Sharif talks about. We have this big leg down, then we get a little bit of a slump, and we get another leg down. We're almost at days lows here for Hood. That 37.80 would be days lows for Hood. So I think with this, you also have some natural lower highs to get risks to. I think if we stay below that 38.10s, it looks, or I guess 38.20s, we just broke above that though. So it looks like this HOOD might no longer be a trade to be in right now. It might not be all good in the Hood if you just got short. I want to see now what we do there though if we pull back to that 38.10. That was a little bit of support going back to 11 and was a little bit of resistance until we just popped now. So I want to wait and see what we do here. I got stopped out at AAPL. That is cool. The spread was like 50 cents. So again, with AAPL, I'm not going to mind. If we reject VWAP, I will short again. META, I'm going to go move my stop on this one because we have now bounced a little bit here. I want to move some of my profit takers and take stock, pun intended, of this trade. We're still in the money. I'm not going to get out, but I'm going to take a moment to evaluate. How are you doing, Joe?
Yeah, I'm doing okay because I'm just sitting on my hands here, Dara. Yeah, exactly. Sometimes you need to. The market wants to continue to bleed, and that's okay. But something that is holding up relatively strong is Amazon. So Obi's Amazon here, probably one of the better performing. I don't want to say like it's performing great, but in the Meg 7, it's definitely performing the best. All right, it's not bleeding like the rest of these names. It's holding around the volume weighted average price. You see that we punched through, but we need to take these trend lines into consideration. As you can see, we are constructing lower highs there, guys. So yeah, not a good look. I'll wait for another test of it, right? If you can get a good entry, we are putting in a possible base. It's holding at these support levels. If it does continue to hold, maybe we'll look for a retest of this trend line. And if it constructs another lower high, then that's okay. We'll take it off at that trend line. And if it breaks, we'll hold some for the dream. Man, in the chat, I'm glad that you guys were engaging. Day Trader Cut says that he's pro account management. A lot of people are saying hodl until you're negative or something along those lines. Yeah, that's a tough look. I think I'm leaning more towards account management. I know it's the long term, and you don't really want to hyper focus on it too much. You don't want to micromanage the long term, but you also want to take into consideration, like, look at this daily on Amazon, Adara. This is not good whatsoever. 21% off of those all-time highs. So talking about the market baking in these tariffs and what it can do and how it can impact margins, et cetera, whatever it may be, it's in full effect here, guys. So we'll go through the Mag 7 right now just to see from a percentage metric what we are down. So here we go. We'll start off with Amazon, then we'll go with Apple. So 21% off of those highs. Amazon is down. Apple now continuing to bleed as well here too, guys. Let's see what we got from that peak. Now Sharif's got me doing, now Sharif's got me doing that. Here we go. 13%, closer to 14 on Apple. Now we'll pull up some Microsoft to see what we got going on with Microsoft. Yeah, we know that this stock has been consolidating for the better part of a year now, so not too good of a look. Let's see how much we're down off of those all-time highs. 19%, okay, and now we're going to go take a look at Google. We know that the DOJ is saying, hey, they might have to divest from Chrome, which isn't a good look for them. Looking for a potential bounce, may not come anytime soon. 21% here on Google, all right, so, and then we'll pull up NVDA to see what we got going on from that standpoint. And if you're liquid, 31% on NVDA. If you're somewhat liquid, I think it's time to be like, hey, slowly start allocating into these positions. Do not go all in because there might be some more downside. But full-on correction territory we are in, 20% across the board seems to be the common denominator here in some of these Mag 7 names. So it's a really tough look. If you're liquid, slowly start buying it, and if you're still hodling, then look to maybe manage the account. Tough look here. Again, we heard Michael Noss say this morning the third year of a bull market is usually some choppy mess, and it's coming into full fruition here. Adara not looking too good, but those are just the big names. We have to look for relative strength, and with that, we pull up the top performing sectors, and we can see that XLE was. Let's see what we got going on from a daily standpoint here on XLE. A little choppy mess, not something too good. Again, it's not like a high beta name or anything along those lines, but you can just see that it's like, okay, you get a nice move to the top side, you retrace 40% of that move back here, and then you make another new high. So it's not necessarily fun. What you want to do is you want to get in at the lows and then look for a potential rip on that side. But yeah, maybe the market will get somewhat of a bounce. I see a bottoming signal here on Apple on the 5-minute time frame as well too. I don't know if I want to try it considering the momentum is really weak to the downside and these pops aren't working. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to wait for the pops to slowly phase out and then maybe look to the short side. So I'm going to sit on my hands for a little bit here. Let's see what we got going on with Apple. And this is what I'm looking at specifically. You can see that we have this isolated volume signature compared to 11 o'clock, so about an hour and a half. This is the largest one. Nice hammer candle, now pumping towards some key support zones if it can break through. But you can see that there's not much buying pressure, so those buyers are not fully engaged just yet, Adara. So I'm going to be patient. You're not in anything. I'm not in anything. Not in anything. We'll wait for those setups to come in.
Yeah, you just got stopped out. Like I said, App 11, I got stopped out. And I want to clarify, both these stop outs for profit, but still not in any trades. APP, I did get stopped out of that. Again, I was short 250, 70. I got stopped out just above 247. So still $3 a share in the position. I'm not going to cry about that. Happy with the trade. But META, I want to talk about because I got stopped out of this and I had a little beak wetter set there at 252, initially 292.50s, then I moved to 292.70s, and could we get filled? No, we could not. We bounced. I got stopped out for, drum roll please, 30 cents a profit on the average. So, not great, but I don't really care. I took the trade as planned, and that's what matters. I am looking at a couple potential shorts here. I'm watching Netflix, and I know actually accidental pun. And I said, based on my rules, I'd be cautious with Netflix. Usually I would allow myself 2-3 pops at a stock. But this first pop at Netflix was a fat finger situation. I didn't mean to get out. I fat fingered my stop and it got me out. I would have still been in the trade. So with that in mind, if I see certain things set up, I have no problem taking my third pop at that, but that's going to be my last. Why and what am I looking for? If we break below this 262.60, why? That was a huge support level earlier. It was a little bit of support here as well. And like I said earlier, my biggest thing with Netflix and my first short was I was not cognizant of that 858. But now, this is now the second time we've tried to break 858 without doing so successfully. And I'm going to pull up the 15-minute chart so I can show you guys what I mean. The fact that we keep failing to break 858 and making lower highs, if we break 858, oh my gosh, do I want that short? It is not even funny. That's what I have to say to that. So with that in mind, yeah, 862, I will fully take that short, and I will take further at the 858 breakdown. If we don't get it, that's cool. We don't get it. I'll take some profit at 858, maybe. But I think the probability of that, like I said, given the fact that Netflix is particularly weak, the market is a little bit weak, still below VWAP. I think if we can get that 862 breakdown and then an 858 breakdown, I'm going to be pleased as a punch to take that short.
Nice.
Now, another guy I'm looking at right now, AAPL. I got waked out of this. It happens. It's cool. Whatever. I didn't run back in. I still thought that 246.30 area could have been a place to get back into this because that was an area I liked as an ad earlier, but I didn't want to risk it. And I think that's probably good I didn't because look, we just got to that 244.30 area again and we bounced. So if we get to this 244.30 and we reject it and we break below it, I will 1000% be going short and I'm going to risk to 247. So that's about like risking $2.50. I think that's more than reasonable for a stock like AAPL. So that is my next trade on watch. I actually think we might get it, but I want to see us sustainably into and breaking below the 244. There was a talk. Oh yeah, PDD. Someone asked about PDD here. SBP trader asking about PDD short. Only down 3%. Oh. Oof.
Ooh.
I'm going to say, I don't know if I'd short this. A, there's not a lot of volume, so I might not want to be involved. And B, to me, this looks like a really nice rounded bottom on PDD. So that's my take. I think with PDD, I would be pretty darn diligent, to use a pun Ramin actually initially gave me, so shout out to her. I'd be pretty darn diligent before dipping my toe into PDD. There's a super chat here from Tuan Vo. Does the volume on SMCI look weird to you guys? We'll find out. If it's low, I would say yes, because SMCI tends to have volume. Honestly, SMCI does SPCE things, as we say, Shreve and I sometimes call it SPCE. So with that in mind, this volume looks pretty good. We have some higher lows. We have some lower highs. It is doing, I guess, like SMCI is pretty volatile. So I would say this is kind of what this stock tends to do. I'm not seeing for myself anything out of the ordinary, but I do not trade SMCI a lot since it split. When it was $600, I'd be like in heaven, oh, going long, going short, la-di-da-di-da. Now that it's like $38, I'm not going to lie, that's not necessarily my thing. But there is one slightly cheaper, and by that I mean $80-ish stock that moves sometimes that I do like to trade, and that's Novo Nordisk. And why do I bring up Novo Nordisk right now? Well, that's because this actually had a catalyst. Its CagriSema weight loss drug, once again, showed lower than expected signs. Right, I don't like to touch Novo on an intraday basis a lot of the time because I found regardless of the catalyst, it just tends to sell off. Today it didn't do that, so I think it's probably pretty good we didn't. I'm going to try right now to get involved here in this APP, and we're going to take, yeah, we'll do this many shares. We'll see what happens here. We're back. Yeah, we got filled here, 244.30. Now, I know I talked about my 3-strike rule. If I'm correct on a trade, and I'm correct on the direction, and I'm not right on it, I am sometimes willing to give it a couple more pops. But that being said, if we're wrong on this, then we're wrong. Like, I don't want to keep dipping my head into the same well like a little ostrich. So that's going to be the vibe here with this. We're gonna set our stop here. We're short 244.40. We're gonna set our stop here at 246.93s. I want to give it just above 90s, but just below 277 because I think if I give it to 247, if I give it to 247, I think the chances of me getting slipped are really high. And that's one thing too. I talk a lot about trading spready tickers. You have to be aware of slippage. You have to be so aware of slippage. And I think with that in mind, setting your stops is crucial because you do want to mention, as I said, you want to give it a little bit above if you're going to be risking to see prior bar. You want to give it a little bit above, or you want to give it a little bit below if you're going to risk a prior bar low. But with that in mind, sometimes if you give it too much room, regardless of your size, you're going to get lots of slippage. So I would say, like with any ticker, the more you trade it, the more things you trade of that ilk, you will get more used to it. Before I send it back here, we're going to take a look here at Tesla. A lot of people joking, Elon Musk has puts. Executives are selling. I don't know about all that. I have no idea. But I will say with TSLA, which is not on the NY Adara, oh my gosh. With TSLA, the one thing I think definitely, as this thing breaks a new low, oh my gosh, I'm gonna have to look at this as a short. So with Tesla, I think a lot of people are concerned about Doge. And I think what you mentioned earlier, Joe, that I meant to talk about, I think that might have been a buy the rumor, sell the news.
Yeah.
People were really excited about the idea of Elon Musk being involved in the government. And then people remembered what Elon Musk is like when he gets involved in things. Sleeping at the factory or in the White House. Bringing his kid along for show and tells at the White House. Like, Elon Musk is a very involved guy. And that is not a bad thing by any means. But when that is involvement is not at Tesla, especially I think after those delivery numbers were what they were for Q4, which is when he started to get political, in my opinion, that is when the trend shifts. However, there is a very small thing, and I'm going to call it the Amy Gleason factor. And I actually think this could be bullish for Tesla if we find out more about it. Now, you might be like, who is Amy Gleason? That was me yesterday when I discovered her. Amy Gleason is, I think, a woman in, like, I think her late 40s. That's not really the point. Amy Gleason is a woman who has worked for the government. She's worked also as, like, chief tech officer, chief marketing officer in a couple small companies that are no longer with us. But this individual, this woman, she's been involved in politics a little bit, and she apparently is the acting manager of Doge right now. I've seen this reported by a couple outlets. I want to find out more about Miss Amy before we get too excited about her. But I think if Amy Gleason is, in fact, doing more for Doge than we think she is, or more than Elon is, I think that's a good look for Tesla. Why do I think that's a good look for Tesla? Well, I will tell you, I think if we actually have it that Elon, who we're concerned is doing too much, if he's actually not doing as much as we think he is, I think that could maybe assuage the fears of some of these Tesla investors who are worried that Tesla's too involved in Doge. If he's less involved in Doge, I actually think that's probably a good look for Tesla. But I know that is kind of a different look. So we're gonna have to wait and see what happens there. That's just my take. And it's worth noting too, people have asked about Amy's involvement with the Doge and no one has confirmed. So I think the fact that they don't want to say how involved she is makes me think she might be more involved than we think she is. I'm going to stop ranting about this lady no one's heard of. I got back on this at Love and Short. Happy I did. We are doing quite nicely here. I don't even have any profit takers or B quitters. I'm just going to chill in this trade. I have no reason to leave until I have a reason to leave. Right now, my stop is going to be like 247s, as I said, just below 247s. I've waxed poetic. So, Joe, what are you checking out over there?
Yeah, I'm looking at SMCI. Someone in the chat, I see Tuan put in that super chat. So what did I do? I just pulled it up. I was looking for this resistance zone to break, but it didn't come into play. That there's no buyer stepping in. We didn't see that volume influx that we would need in order to break through that resistance zone. Instead, we have continued to sell off. So double top type price action here on SMCE, as Adara A and Sharif like to call it here. But SMCI not looking too good. But relative to the rest of the chip names, pretty strong here, okay? So compared to the rest of the tech market, the tech sector, sorry, this is holding up relatively well. Can we get buyers to step in and break through those zones? Possibly. Maybe I'll look to join it if we can crack the volume weighted average price around 38.20, and then maybe we can punch through some of these lower highs there, guys. So that is the game plan here on SMCI. What is everybody looking at in the chat? Put it in there. We will go over some names. IBIT putting in a potentially bottom signal here. Someone said flat bottom break, so I pulled it up. But we have a nice standout volume print continuing to the south side, now at 45. We were at 53 last week. I think a high of last week was roughly, let's see, yeah, and we were north of 50. So 50, 62, 51.85, so a couple days, yeah, so around $52 we were, and then now heading to the south side. I haven't looked at spot Bitcoin. I seen it was selling yesterday, and I'm like, okay, we got to avoid that. So yeah, all right, UNG, TB, I see you. We'll go over UNG. Please don't spam the chat. We will, U.S. natural gas looking pretty good, holding up relatively strong. Let's zoom out and see what we got going on from a daily standpoint. You do it one more time, I'm going to unfortunately have to put you on timeout. And there you go. You're going to catch a 5-minute, 10-minute timeout from your boy Joe. So it's your boy, live and learn, as I like to say. Here we go on UNG, considering I'm still going over what you are looking at. Daily standpoint, 5-minute trading above the volume weighted average price. Nice curl over. You can see that we're constructing higher lows throughout this whole channel to the top side. That is a positive signal, and we'll go and look at it from a daily standpoint. Ooh, okay, off of these bottoms here, guys. Really good look here on the U.S. natural gas. Up about 93%, so doubling from late last year. Let's see how much we're up year to date here. The second, 58%. So there you go. The natural gas coming really, really into play with a high of 134. So not too good of a look there on that. But again, if you're in at this base, then you're up 58% from those levels, guys. Good look. Let's see what else we got going on. Looking for a potential, I can't believe I'm about to say it, long here on SPCE. But yeah, I don't know if I should do that. I should probably just sell that dip here. Already blocked. Yeah, there we go. Joe put him in the, yeah, he's in the box. Yeah, he got a 10-minute major there, guys. So that's what happens when you continuously spam the chat, especially when I'm like, hey, I'm going to go over what you're looking at, and then you continue to do so. So yeah, you get a 10-minute major there for that play. You know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna sell this. I'm gonna sell this pop here on SMCI. We can't break through VWAP, rejecting really nice here, guys. So let's see if we can get involved in some of these shorts. If we can break through some of these support levels, then I think we can come and test 37.40 would be my next target. We're gonna hop in. Okay, rejected. Why is that rejecting? That's okay, we'll figure that out here shortly. I'll put in a different order is what I will do. Yeah, there we go. Yeah, still rejecting it. Still not working out for me. That's right. But that's okay. We'll figure out why we can't get into this. We'll just have to post something, and then hopefully we can catch a fill on that one. Yeah, now we're on the power play, Kirk D. Oh, here we go, and it's starting to sell off here, Adara. Wish we were in at 38, but that is okay. We will find a way to enter this trade. All right, anyways, never mind. We'll find something else, not that liquid. It's not on SSR or anything along those lines, so we'll find something that will help us get into this position. As we start to bleed here in SMCI, the Q's looking like they want to take another leg lower here, down probably north of 3%. Getting closer to 4. I thought this double bottom will come into play here, Adair, but it is not. We are testing it again, and you can see those indecision prints right at that key level, 474. If we crack 474, I talked about the options chain. What's the next level there? 470, highest levels of out the money open interest. We need to take these levels into consideration. We went over it last week. We've seen where the market bounced. Is it going to bounce at 470? Possibly, but we need to get there first. Hopefully that magnetic effect comes in, and then we can reject it after that. So that is going to be the game plan on the Qs. If we crack it, then maybe we'll take the TQQ short. But other than that, I'm not going to hop into anything just yet. I don't want to chase. Miss the entry here on SMCI. That's okay. There will always be another one, especially if we get this retest and have the inability to break through the volume weighted average price. That's going to give me more conviction within the setup to go to the downside. Now let's see what everybody else in the chat is up to. VIX still around the highs, around 26.79. It's still up there. I think that we see 30 in the VIX. Watching a lot of options videos over the weekend, and it's just like the market hasn't completely priced in these tariffs, and that's what you have to take into consideration. We are starting to bake in the effect of these tariffs in the market. That is why you see all these mega cap names down north of 20%, or 10%, sorry. You see 15%, 20%, 13% in some of these big names, something that has carried the market the past couple years, and now they're starting to drag the market. So the leaders being the leaders, whether it be to the downside or to the top side here, Adara, I'm going to be patient. I'm not going to hop in anything just yet, even though we are cracking some key support levels here in SPCE. I'm going to pack my patience, hold those horses, and wait for that precise entry.
Yeah, shout out to our boy SPCE. Great look there. I am in app loving, and I'm still in app loving. This is not a difference here. I'm still in this trade. My risk is now here, this 246 level, because that, like I said, just kind of areas that I think were previous support that I think could form to resistance. Might move it to 246.30s because that was more of the area for me. But right now it's around just above 246. I'm fine with that. We're a couple pennies in the money. It's whatever. I will be adding if we break below 242 if I think I have a reason to do so. Why? Look at all these little, like, these wicks into 242 earlier. That was a huge support resistance area for me personally. So if we break below that, I am going to want a slice of that pie. I'm going to be like, yum, let's take a bite. Let's eat that pie. Let's take that train to the downside. So I have another name I'm looking at here. It's Netflix. And I know I said with Netflix, I was going to be very discretionary with this because technically it is flirting with my 3-strike rule. And I say flirting with my 3-strike rule because I did technically take 3 strikes, but the first one I fat fingered out of the second I got in. Netflix, like I said, we're going to take small size with. We're not going to do anything cray-cray. But if we break below this 863, I believe it deserves a third or another shot. 863, that's my hard line. If we don't break below 863, I do not want it, and I will not cry. So give the 863, I like that. I will have to give it to 868. That is the prior bar in the 15. But the great thing, too, about using prior bar 15 stops, Joe, is if it takes us longer to break to 863 and that prior bar gets lower, like, I can take more size. So I'm down. But I'm only going to be risking 1 unit. And by that, I mean I'm going to be risking roughly 10% of my total risk for the day. I'm not going to be risking any more than that on flakes, though I will add, as I mentioned earlier, if it breaks below 858, because if you look at this 15-minute chart now, we've bounced off 858 twice. If we break below 858 with these lower highs, man, do I want that blood in that ticker. It is not a joke. It is very real. So that's a look at that. PSTV, some people were mentioning here. So PSTV, that is pure storage, I believe. My memory is serving me correctly. So PSTV, I want to take a look at. This is okay. Okay, pure storage, I see you. This is a pure bounce. This looks like that PDD chart earlier. Man, pure storage is this beautiful, like, mwah, mwah, mwah. It keeps kissing that support at 135, almost 136. Then we push to the upside, and I'm going to pull a Sharif because we're looking at a Sharif name. Oh, baby, look at that push above VWAP. That is gorgeous. So you have that push above VWAP. I would honestly say, and this is the thing, I don't know how much you're supposed to risk on small caps, but I would say a reasonable area, if I were to trade this, would be that 145. Why? Because there's a lot of wicks here. This is clearly some previous resistance with that rounded bottom. If that can hold the support, I would say that is likely a good look. Netflix is just eating its way towards that 863. So I'm all hands on deck on that. AAPL is chilling. I have no reason to get too excited or too upset about it. We're chilling. We don't trade emotionally. It is what it is. And I think I have to say too, one thing that I've really found, especially myself, just since not trading on the midday, trading on my own, there's no reason to get upset. Like, it's fun to get excited and stuff for the show, but when I'm on my own, I will just take my trade and I will like do my, news, eating food, trade, it's happening, whatever. You know what I mean? It is what it is. So I think that's pretty key. Shout out to Mike Simmons saying, LOL, Adara, you're awesome. I appreciate that, Mike. You're awesome, and this whole community is awesome. If you are enjoying the show, get in the chat. And make sure to like and subscribe. We're so happy to have you here every day. Some people talking about a potential Tesla bounce at 230. I believe Daryl Flinch mentioned the 230 first. Like I said to someone earlier, asking if Tesla was going to reverse, my take on Tesla possibly reversing is, given how much it sold off, I need a high time frame confirmation. I initially said earlier I'd want a 1 hour green bar. Even a 30-minute green bar at this point might be a good look. So if we had a 1 hour green bar, and again, that seems highly unlikely unless it's the next bar to open, I think if we have that green 1 hour bar, that would certainly show a change of trend. But the point is, after all the selling, given the extent of the selling, the size of the selling, I'm going to want to see a distinct change in the tide, something that looks distinctly different. Shout out to the man to our right, oh boy himself, Obi. If I see that distinct change, I would be interested. Even right now, I can't even say it risk to low of day because this could even be a further bear flag. So make sure that you're doing your checks to make sure you're doing your balances before you get involved, because you don't want to be in a situation where you got involved too early and then you end up revenge trading because of it. So just be careful about that. Remember the lesson. Come up with plans that work for you. Like for myself, I love rules. I tend to trade much better if I just come up with rules for everything and follow them. Is that nerdy? Sure. Does it work for me? I find it does. So whatever that is for you, make it work for you. And it does not, this is the thing I've realized too, your plan, your trading identity, your strategy does not have to make sense to anybody else but yourself. And I run into that problem where I know, because I've been trading spread for a while, there was a situation a lot of the times where I would see people in the chat be like, like, why are you looking at spread, whatever. And because I was newer in my journey and I was a bit more insecure in my trading identity, I would get scared of taking trades because I would think, why am I looking at that? And you can't do that, right? It makes sense, especially when you're early, to sometimes have that doubt, but recognize that doubt and realize if something's working for you, it does not have to make sense to a single other soul. And I think that's huge. And I want to really kind of nail down the fort on that. Okay, I'm gonna, Joe, if you don't mind, I'm gonna pass it over.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So there you go. Dare has to manage some trades, guys. Palantir continuing to bleed, looking to go to the low of day, breaking through some key bottoming signals, rejecting the volume weighted average price. This is on the 15-minute there, guys. So you can see this indecision within this price action just below the VWAP here, and now possibly going to go and test that 77.40 level. Let's take a look at it from a daily standpoint. I know this is a popular name amongst the community, a high of 125.78, and then now we're sitting at a low of 77. So that's almost a 40% pullback here in Palantir. So not a good look. So where are we going to find some relative strength, guys? Let's take a look at the staples. XLP here, guys. Now, I like what Michael Noss did this morning. It was like, okay, just go on your platform, whatever it may be, TradingView, whatever you're using, and look for stocks that are nearing that 52-week high and look for that strength and try to continue in that strength, because the chances are if they haven't sold off at this point, they may continue in that northeast trajectory. So I'm going to take that into consideration and look for these strong sectors. And with that comes XLP. We know that Walmart's not having the best session today. That's okay. We'll see what other of these names are up to. But we almost punched through that all-time high here on XLP, which would be a really good look, but we're still hovering around those areas. So getting defensive the market is, and I think I should at this point as well. But I want to see if this double bottom, TKO. So I have three names that I want to allocate into the long term. It's TKO, Walmart, and what was the third one? Robinhood. So getting the fintech. I like Robinhood. I think it's priced really good, especially with that 700% increase year over year with that crypto trading crypto. I think that's a positive name, and I really like that for Robinhood. We know what they went through with the GameStop phase. I think that's behind us now and has been for an extended period of time. But those are the three names. TKO, because I'm a big fan. Maybe I can collect a little bit of a dividend on that one, and it can pay for the pay-per-views that it cost me to stream all these UFC events. And then Walmart, because even though I don't necessarily shop there, I just love the company and I love the stock. And then whatever the other one was, I said there, Hood, because of fintech, and I don't own my broker, so I want to get into a brokerage here, though. So thoughts on Baba short, couldn't break VWAP, asked Ramzi. Yeah, we'll take a look at Alibaba. I mentioned that the Chinese ADRs have been performing significantly better than the U.S. markets, and they're up drastically compared to what we are. We are down and we are negative. It's not looking good for our picks of the year, Adair, especially on my end, because Meta was one of my picks. It went on that 20-day green streak, and then now is put in consecutive days. But here we go on Baba, still hovering around these highs. I would look for this base to hold here. But if we want to go to performance from a year-to-date standpoint, let's see what we got going on from the 2nd of January all the way to where we're currently sitting at. A 56% gain there, guys, in some of these ADR names. So that's a tough look. If you want to find strong markets, you might find it here in some of these ADR names. Now, what else? Oh yeah, TKO. Someone asked in the chat, asked me to take a look at TKO, and I'll go over that for you guys briefly, because I mentioned that I also want to get involved with this name because I like Dana White and I like combat sports. But here we go, guys. Nice pullback off of these highs, 179.32 all the way down to 143. Is that an all-time high on TKO? It is. Yep. Because I know they only merged not too long ago, so WWE, and I forget, I think it was like Endeavor Holdings or something along those lines. But here we go, running into the support level, bouncing off it really well here, folks. You can see that right at 137.64, we're holding that and a really definitive bounce. I want to pull up the options chain to see if we have any outsized open interest on the put side that would cause it to bounce at that specific level. And what are we looking at? 137, we'll call it. We'll pull up that 137. So 135, okay, here we go. This is why we look at these options levels, because we can use them as support and resistance. It's almost essentially like bookmap, a heat map of where there's a high level of concentration of contracts. And 135, we have 26,000 open contracts right now, guys. And that is a March 21st first expiration cycle, so you don't even get the weeklies in this name. So 135 really coming into play, bouncing off it. I mentioned that we might tap into 470 here in the Qs, and then that's maybe where we get a rebound, or we start to get that sideways price action in the market. But that's still about 4 points away here, guys, 4 or 5 points. So we'll take that into consideration as well. UFC discretionary spending is drying up. What do you mean by that, Dwyer? I mean, they're not spending as much. Yeah, I guess on promoting and everything along those lines, fight promotion, But again, I think it's still popular. That sport is growing, in my opinion. It's only getting bigger and bigger. You see that they're over in the Middle East. They're in Australia multiple times a year. We're fortunate enough to get a couple events here and there. I think the next one's coming up in Montreal, which will be a good time. And I think the card is a pretty good title fight. So, yeah, we'll hold on to that. Apple Dim says Tesla to $120. I hope not, because it's funny because we hear Dan Ives and Kathy Wood talking about Tesla and what autonomy can bring to it, and releasing this robo fleet can bring another $1 trillion in market cap. But as we're sitting right now, I think we've lost roughly about that. So I'll pull up the highest market cap companies and see what Tesla is. It down? Okay, so Tesla's south of that. So I'll type in top 20 highest market cap companies in S&P. S&P and the NASDAQ. So we'll figure that out. If we are south of $1 trillion, when they were talking about that, we are sitting above $1 trillion, and then now adding another $1 trillion into market cap, that's going to put it at a pretty hefty price tag, and I just don't see it going there anytime soon. A lot of my good buddy Greg V and I were talking about, I don't think that this market makes an all-time high this year, and maybe even next year. It may take some time. We're going to need some positive news, and we're going to need earnings to not be hindered as much by these tariffs in order for us to hold on to these key levels and somewhat hover. But now that we're down 20%, now we need double the move to get back to where we were, Adara. But what do you got going on? How's those trades working out for you?
Yeah, I mean, Netflix, we're like $1 out of the money, but like I said, with something like Flakes, where I'm willing to risk $5 and it's this pretty, I am not going to cry. I don't care. And then, like I said, I am cautious about this because I did already, I don't want to say I broke my rules. I bent my rules. I like to give myself 3 tries. This is my 4th, but my first try I got stopped out right away because I had a fat finger. So it is what it is. You could argue, Adara, you are literally splitting hairs, and maybe I literally am. I don't know, but we'll see. I'm okay with it. The point is, I like the setup, and I did have very specific criteria, and I waited. So crying over spilled shares, I will not. People were making that joke because of the way you worded, like the Yoda or whatever. So you said something. Yeah. So I'm like, I will pull that too. We can all be Yoda over here. This is App Love It. And I have to say, I am loving App Love It. Has the market been? No, it has not. I did mention I wanted to add at 242s, but I didn't get the ad right away. And then we kind of came back up and tried to retest 243s. At that point, I said, Adara, you are going to be really, really pushing it if you try to add here. So I didn't. We're going to move the stop right now here to that 243.58. So at that point, like I'm totally comfortable with the stop there. That's still, you're still going to get stopped out in the money, which is not the point at all, but it's always kind of nice sometimes when that happens. So that's just basically what I'm doing right now. Because of the way we're moving, I'm not really comfortable using 5-minute prior bars. To me, it's more of a structure break. So as we get, this kind of touch we just had around that 243s, I want to be cognizant of that. I want to move my stop accordingly. As we continue to bleed, I probably will move back to using 5-minute prior bars. Right now, though, I'm cool with this stop. I do not like the way we bounced off 240, which makes sense. It's a whole dollar level. But with that in mind, I might actually, have to take some off here at 240. I didn't necessarily want to do that. You know what we're going to do? I was going to take off half my position here. We might have to, if we still continue to try to bounce off this 240, I might have to take off a quarter there and then another quarter here. But that's the plan here with Apple. And I like to keep you guys updated on what my thought process is as the trade goes. So with Netflix, I've been using 15-minute prior bars as my stop. And I just realized we had a new 15-minute bar. So I'm going to have to move my stop now to 866.25. So this is really my process here. I want to let you guys know what I do is I like to be an active trader, and by that I mean I am constantly trailing my stops. I move my stops like all the time. If there's a reason to move it, I will move it. And that's not to be, too discretionary. It's just if I see a reason to change my stop, if I think the sentiment may or may not have changed at a certain point, I want to be cognizant of that, and I want my trading to reflect that. So that's why I move stops. That being said, the action we're getting in the book right now on Netflix is, for lack of better term, very flushy. So I want to take that to the downside. Is it time to do that poll?
It is. I was going to say, I don't want to interrupt you, Adara,
Perfect.
but it's really important here because what won the Playmaker poll, it is the shorts, guys. So we're going to be heading shorts. Do you know the routine how Sharif and I do it?
Yeah, he reads like what the current price,
Yep.
and then
the stop. Yeah, so a $2 price target we're looking for, and then a $1 stop. You think you can hang? You can hang. All right.
Is this are we long or short?
No, we're short today, Adara. So please tell me the short entry here on the SPY.
Okay, so right now, I mean, it keeps moving. We're gonna say 562.60s for the short entry.
Okay.
And so for a $2 profit taker, that would be 560.60s, and we are risking to 563.60s.
563.60s. I think I might have done that backwards, but I will adjust that. So yeah, so no, that's correct. So 563.60 is going to be our out. Our price target is going to be 560.60. We're breaking through some key support levels in this market, guys. We're going to type in short here on the Playmaker poll. It is exactly 103 is when we're getting in at, and we're going to be short a negative 100 shares. And please continue.
Oh, yeah, thank you. Yeah, I do have a little bit more I want to say. This is perfect there. Appreciate that. Yeah, no worries. We're going to take a look here at Palantir. I just saw that one on the new poll, and I don't remember what I voted for, truthfully. That's how quickly the time flies when you were having fun with these markets. But, oh, my Palantir. I don't have words other than tank and yuck. So we'll take a look at the daily chart in Palantir. I think that Palantir is this one, much like AAPL, we had eyes on because, and I'm going to talk about my AAPL gap thing in a minute, but Palantir had quite the gap on the daily, and I can't believe we've mostly filled the earnings gap. Like, this is quite the look. For me, myself, for Palantir, I was watching 79s. I know the guys mentioned 79s in the morning show. Because we kept kissing that 79 level, I thought if we broke below that, it could be a good short. If you shorted 79s, ding, 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 you get a medal. That is a great look. And I think to prove the 79 thesis more, on the weekly chart, I'm going to use TradingView because I think it looks cleaner on TradingView. But TradingView here, the weekly chart for the Palantir one. This is, like, to me, it looked so much like a flat bottom. These are just some levels I had from earnings. It looks so much like a flat bottom break at that 79s that also kind of really helped my thesis. Obviously, we had that flat bottom break. I didn't trade it. I'm not even going to lie to you. Like I said, when I'm on the mid-date, I know I'm going to have to leave my trades or move my trades. I try not to get too excited to get involved too early, and I like to just kind of sit on my hands a bit. So I wasn't involved in that, but wow, this Palantir, even I think there's a potential like entry. You could probably get involved in this again if you like this still as a short. If we get to that 77 halves and we reject, maybe that could be an entry. But the other way I like to look at this, because like I said, I do not love directional bias. If we break back above here, the 77 halves, I think that could potentially, maybe it's a long, maybe you risk to low of days. Palantir is doing something here that I really find to be quite persuasive. And it's this double, like we talk about double top, double bottom, but when they do this like this, like I think we have Michael Noss calling it the tweezer pattern. When it's candles back to back like this sometimes can actually signal a reversion. So Palantir, you might have to kick somebody off my side chart. I don't really want you to, kind of like all the people on my side chart right now. But this Palantir looking a little bit spicy. That being said, if we break this low here, a low of day, obviously I wouldn't like it as a long. And now it looks like we're getting tweezer candles on both sides. I would have to look at this some other time frames. But Palantir, I think, honestly, maybe could bounce here, but I would be careful, as always. But you know what's probably not bouncing, Joe? Tesla. Ooh. TSLA getting increasing volume to the downside. Could this be capitulatory volume to the downside? I don't know. We can't talk about this yet. But I think the fact that the volume is increasing to the downside, I know you talk a lot about volume, Joe. I think this is certainly speaking volumes, pun very much intended, for the TSLA. So let's wait and see what happens on that one. Still in AAPL.
13%?
Yeah.
Wow.
Still in AAPL, still in my flakes. And the flakes are actually starting to work right now. Like I said, I have a target for this. It's 858. If we bounce at 858, I'll get out everything. I don't care. Actually, no, I'll probably only get out half. But if we break below 858, I will be adding with a viciousness and a vigor. Not yet seen on these C's. I'm being dramatic. The point I'm trying to make is, like, ignoring my weird 80s movie trailer voiceover, I will be adding to the short on Netflix aggressively. I'll at least double it. If we get to that 858, I don't care about my average because if I'm right about this, it shouldn't even go back there. So that's the thing. As of right now, as I continue to wax poetic, it's actually now back to break even. But I'm cool. I'm chilling. I'm vibing. I'm taking this market as it goes, and I'm not getting too attached to anything because you can't. The market will do what it does, and your job as a trader is to just stay cool, stay responsible, and stay easy breezy, beautiful cover girl.
Ooh, yeah, no, I agree with that. So no one's gonna kill our vibe, especially Kendrick Lamar. Shout out, okay. But no, I like what you just pointed out there. Is that, and we talked about hulking out in psychology, Adara's psychology lesson. You have to take into consideration what we're looking at in front of you, these charts and all these numbers, unfortunately, don't really care about you. They don't care about me. They don't care what it is. And I think you need to have that reciprocal type like mentality. It's like, okay, you don't care about me, then I'm not going to hold any bias. I'm not going to get frustrated. It's a lot easier said than done. But if you can have that mentality, then I think you're much better off. You know, just don't take it personal because it's truly not. It's just, the market will do. It's just, right? So you really take that into consideration and don't get too beaten up. We know that there's tough days and everything along those lines. It comes with the game, but just understand that the market, it doesn't have feelings, or nor is it aware that you're necessarily trading, even though it does feel like you get stop hunted, et cetera. But you got to consider where you put those stops in, and that's why I refer to putting them in way below support and resistance zones. And it's really unfortunate that I missed on the on this SMCI trade. Would have been close to $1 in the money as it continued to bleed lower and lower. So I was getting in at this VWAP rejection, looking for the break of the support level around 37.38, and then looking for the break and the touch of the low of day. As the Qs continues to bleed here, guys, I can't believe Tesla's down 13%. That is crazy in my opinion. So it is on SSR now, I believe, is it not?
Yeah, very much so.
Yeah, very much so. Yeah, exactly. So very much so there, guys. SSR on Tesla. Well, yeah, really, really tough look, guys. If you want us to go over anything, put it in the chat. We'll be sure to do so. It's a bloody Monday, so we're not going to look for any more of those bounce. We're going to look for the continuation of the trend. We're now only a couple points away from that 470 target that I was referring to here in the NASDAQ and on the options chain, guys. But one thing I wanted to mention as well, too, is that we know that the market can be irrational and it can tend to exaggerate, whether it be to the top side or to the long side. What we have here, guys, is the market removing what was priced in and then possibly baking in the potential downside these tariffs have on some of these large names and the fundamental aspect of them as well too, all right? So this is what is going on. The market and the options market is pricing in the potential downside of these tariffs. So what do I think about selling cash secured puts on Tesla 1 month out at $100? Well, what do those pay? I don't think they're going to pay very much. 1 month out at $100, we can pull that up. That's the thing, right? You may not catch too much premium, but the positive note, I guess, from that standpoint is the fact that if you do get a sign, that will be pretty comical, in my opinion. But then you own Tesla at 100. So what are we sitting on the 10th? We'll pull up the April 11th expiration cycle and to see if they're even offering you anything for those, which is absolutely insane. You can see this grin on my face, Adara. You are still have the ability to collect some premium here on that $100 strike price in Tesla. A month out, you're going to collect 81 cents a contract. So in options terms, that is $81 for Tesla a month out. So what happens is, so are you familiar with cash secured puts?
Not very much.
Okay, so in the options world, you can buy or sell something, right? So when you sell something, you want time to work in your favor, and day by day, it will diminish the value of the contract. Yeah. Okay, so what he was referring to by selling cash secured puts is that he was going to sit on some cash, right? The amount to own 100 shares, but he wants to sell the contract at $100. So in 1 month time, if Tesla doesn't reach $100, he keeps $81.
Oh, okay.
Right. Okay.
That's
So
not- okay,
if
that
that,
makes sense.
yeah,
Okay,
if that makes
thank you.
sense, right?
Yeah.
So coming in 1 month time, if Tesla doesn't go to $100, then he keeps that premium that he collected.
Oh, nice.
Now, if Tesla goes to $100,
Okay.
he now is going to be assigned that stock at $100.
Oh.
Yeah, so that's the benefit of selling cash secured puts, is that you can sell these contracts at targets that you want to own the underlying
That makes
assets.
sense.
So right,
Okay.
so what he's referring to, he's saying that Tesla in a month can possibly go there, and what the options market is saying is, hey, you may not be wrong at this point. Okay, we're down 13%. Yeah, it's really cool stuff, and I didn't think you were going to collect anything along those lines. That's why you see this massive grin on my face. I thought it would be like, hey, you'd collect $5-10 or something along those lines, but it's not. You're going to collect almost $100, and if we continue to move to the south side, you can collect even more. But if he opens it now, he's fixed, obviously. So that is funny. I didn't think you were going to get anything, but I'm glad that I looked it up, because the options market is pricing in that Tesla may go to $100 in 1 month, but if it doesn't, then you get to keep your $80. So you got to think about the risk to reward there. Are you happy with owning Tesla at 100, or are you happy collecting $81 per contract? Or if you want to spread it per contract combination, but then you won't get assigned those shares. So yeah, good stuff there. If you guys want to go over anything, so you should sell covered calls then. I mean, if you're in the Tesla position, right, that's a totally different strategy. You got to take into consideration, if you have hundreds of shares of Tesla at, say, 300, and you think there's going to be some more potential downside, that's where you would want to sell some covered calls at 300, because now essentially you're building a thesis that states, hey, I don't believe Tesla's going to go above 300. If it does, maybe I'll get my shares will get called back, but that's okay. I own them at 200, and they're going to get called back at 300. But if it doesn't, then you get to collect the full premium that you sold on those contract combinations. All right, so Tesla at 100 is a gift. Yeah, I mean, hey, we're getting close to 200 in this name. 227 and still bleeding. We were as high as 255. Oh my God! So that's a nice haircut, like I got on the weekend on here on Tesla. So yeah, not a good look. You're gonna get the nod from me on those cash secured puts, because I didn't think you're gonna get anything. So it's interesting to see that. Maybe we get a potential bounce here at Dara. I'm not gonna try to play it just yet. We do have some potential bottoming signals that we will keep an eye out for. If this volume candle can, if we can get more buyers to step in, this candle becomes more isolated, and this closes as a hammer, then I might look for a potential bounce in TSLA. Nimit, I haven't seen you in a while. Nimit, what's going on, my guy? Let's see what he says. Can we go over anything except stock market today? The blood is getting thicker and thicker, and with each 15-minute candle. Yeah, I mean, we got a lot. Darren and I were talking about A24, so we like that. But we got to talk to markets. That's what we're here for. I feel you on that one. Some days you just want to close your eyes and wait for tomorrow. But unfortunately, we can't do that. We got to continue to talk and see what's going on. And also, you don't want to shy away from your fears either, right? You want to face them head on, and be prepared for the next time that something like this happens. Because I know that I'm taking notes. I'm taking into consideration here all these mental notes. Is like, okay, when we go on these massive runs, because God willing, I live long enough that I see another bull market, that when we reach about year 2.5, that it's like, okay, maybe we start shaving some off and be prepared for something to be choppy. It may not be those exact numbers, but you get the gist of what I'm saying. But what do you got going on there, Dara?
Yeah, I am actually, I'm still in both my shorts.
Ooh.
And until I get stopped out, I'll still be in both. So Netflix, we're still flat. I have been flat for most of this trade, slightly out of the money. But like I said, with a stock that is as spready as Netflix, I am not going to care at all. I'm like, cool, whatever, right? So I'm in a situation here. I was going to move my stop because we got a new 15-minute prior bar. But generally what you want to do, at least for myself, is if I'm using the 15-minute to get in, I might want to use a higher time frame to get out. So that being said, unless the market makes some crazy reversal signal, I am actually going to be switching to 30-minute prior bars. And so with that in mind, I'm not moving my stop, because the 30-minute prior bar is like the same as the 15-minute that I was using. So with that in mind, we're going to stick here in the flakes, as Obi will sometimes call it. When we have another 15-minute candle, then I'll move it to the prior bar 30, which will be, I think, around just above 865. So I'll be risking about $2 at that point. But given that I was risking $5 for the first part of that position, I'm chill, right? And that's the thing. You cannot think about it as I know this is such a weird thing to say when you're trading. You have to think about it sometimes, and this is, I want to shout out Obi because he does this and he really helped me with this type of thinking. Percentage of your total risk. So with Netflix, I'm risking just above 10% of my total risk. So when that was with the risking $5. So there's no reason for me to unnecessarily and artificially tighten my risk at this point. I have no reason to do so. So that's why I'm sticking with it. That was initially what I was risking. If I was comfortable risking it then, there's no reason I should not be comfortable risking it now. So that's the vibe with NFLX. We're in app 11 still as well. In app 11, we're risking to prior bars on the 5 minute. So right now here, that stop is gonna be around, drum roll please, I just moved it, I should know this. Yeah, it's just around 241 halves. So we got short around 244 halves. I'm cool with this, even if I get stopped out. We're still going to be making some profit on this. But again, the point of the trade should never be the profit. And I talked about this in the psychology lesson too, right? The profit should follow if you're following your rules, if you're coming up with strategies that work for you and that make sense. And I'm very proud of myself too, because the Adara of like a while ago probably would have sold at 242s. Instead, this current Adara that you see in front of you now is holding this trade until just above 238s, at which point I'll be taking out half. Like, and I think what I've realized too is sometimes you'll hold a trade for a certain point. You get to your profit taker and you take everything out because you're like, oh, well, that was my level I liked. I'm done. I don't know why I sound like Rocky Balboa. No shout out to Joe because he doesn't like those movies.
No shout out to Joe.
Rocky, you know, I sound like Rocky Balboa. But the point is, I think sometimes you can get so caught up thinking, well, that's the trade's done. Sometimes the trade can go on longer than you thought it would. Just as sometimes the trade ends earlier than you think it does when you get stopped out, it can go on much longer than your initial plan. If you're still following your rules and adjusting for that, especially if you're someone who uses trailing stops, which I certainly do, then I think there's absolutely nothing wrong with letting it play out. And I think you're actually doing yourself a disservice if you don't. And they say that as someone who frequently had a tendency of getting out of trades in their entirety or partially too early, and I still do that sometimes. So that is my look on that. Also, a couple people were asking me here about some semis. So we're going to take a look at INTC and INTC, what's going on in that one. What's the intel in Intel? Wow. Obi, are you still short Intel? Congrats. Obi, what are you short Intel? Obi is short Intel 2024. Intel is at 1992. So we say a big oh boy and a shout out to Obi and a bang. I just got these buttons set up with Sharif's Stream Deck. Hopefully Sharif is feeling better. INTC, I think someone was asking about a reversion. The fact that we're rejecting the 9 EMA, I don't necessarily know for reversions here. I think there's a clear amount of support here around that 1999 level. Great year. So I think if we come up and reject that 1999, then I would say the short still. And if we break above 1999 or that key $20 level, maybe it is a reversion. But I think as of right now, you know, the reversion, the mean reversion can be pretty mean, as Obi used to say. And I think right now you don't want to risk it unless you see clear signals of a reversal. We talked about that with TSLA. Speaking of TSLA, okay. This, I mentioned this to Daryl Flinch earlier. If it comes up and rejects that 230, I kind of want a piece of this pie. Right now, I don't have a reason to yet. We're above the 9 EMA, which is not always a huge indicator. But if we get a 3-minute candle here now that's red around that 230, absolutely I'll be going short and I will be risking to 232 because that would be the next higher high. But that's a big if when. I have no reason to get short Tesla now, so I'm not short Tesla now. I'm going to have to move my stop here in app 11 really quickly before we do that. Someone mentioned AMD, so I'm going to talk here about AMD in the place to be. This is as Sean mentioned, it pushed up nicely here into that 101.20s. Then it dropped lower. Kind of, to me right now, it looks like it could be a bit of a rounding top. Much like with Intel, let's see what we do at the most recent level of support resistance. That, to me, is clearly 98.30s. If we reject 98.30s, then maybe that's a continued short. But never advice, just my read of these charts. How you doing?
Yeah, I'm doing all right. I'm just looking at Tesla from a daily standpoint, and the way these price action candles are looking, like the next level for me is going to be 200, but then after that it's like okay, if we tap into those levels then it's 136.54. So that's what I like. That's why I can see the option market slowly starting to price this stuff in. Are we gonna get there? I don't know. This is like without any significant pullback here. I mean, from here to here is about probably, what is that, 374 all the way up to there. Let's see what a percentage metric that is. About a 14% pullback, but we've gotten nothing close to that. since then, and that was way back in January. And someone in the chat asked me, is this similar to what happened in August with the carry trade? And I don't think so. I think this is a lot more broader, and I think this is going to be sustained. My opinion and my 2 cents is, and I can be wrong, and I hope that I am, is that when we drop, so like if you drop, so essentially 50%, so Tesla's lost half its value from the top here. Now, in order to just get back to the top, you need 100% return, right? So the stock needs to double. What is going to double this name? I don't know. We got to wait, right? We got to wait for some hot news to come out for Tesla. Like, he's going to have to hit it out the park with the robo fleet, I think, in my opinion. And Waymo's already covering a lot of ground on that front. So I don't know. Again, it's a really tough look, and some tough decisions are going to have to be made. But again, maybe I just make it a little bit more simplistic and not hold any loyalty to the stock. We know the cult-like type price action that it can get with Tesla. So again, it can recover relatively quick, I think, in my opinion. It's nothing for it to put in those $20, $30, $40 days. And if it does that for a week consecutive, then you're up $100 or whatever it may be. And then that loss is drastically cut. But yeah, tough look. I like the bottoming signals here, guys, on Tesla and in the market. But the thing is, though, I'm not going to try to catch this bounce again and then it slowly die off. But we are down 13% now, around 12% here in Tesla. But a nice hammer candle for those who are trading the volume price analysis type style. Sorry there, guys. Then, yeah, I think these are some good bottoming signals. But you can see that throughout the whole session, we've just been blowing past them. We are at a point in the day where maybe they do come into consideration a little bit more. But yeah, not too good of a look. SMCI holding some bases as well. If you got in at these lows, that would be pretty good. You can see that it held a pre-market low, so you can see the support system coming into full play here throughout the pre-market, multiple touches. Then you get a couple of intraday touches as well too, forming, maybe I'll call this a quad bottom. So I don't know if there's ever been anything like that, but there you go, a new name and a new strategy from Joe, the quad bottom. So it's not a double bottom, it's 1, 2, 3, 4 clear, distinctive touches. But the thing is that we got lower highs and not necessarily some higher lows there, guys. So yeah, a nice look there on SMCI, holding up relatively better than the rest of the market. Let's see what Amazon is up to, because it was holding strong, and if we get a bid, it might look to pop here. So a nice bottoming signal, not down as much as the rest of the market. Let's see what we got going on from a percentage standpoint. See what Amazon is down compared to the other Meg 70, even though we already went over them. Let's see what we got. I'm thinking about 1.5, maybe 2. Let's see what it pulls up here. 3% on Amazon. Tough look there. Yeah, guys, let me know in the chat what you are looking at. Where is BTC? 76,000 Bitcoins at? No way. What do you mean, let's go? 79,000. You're long Bitcoin, Obi? Oh, you want Bitcoin to tank? I know, but that doesn't answer the question. Do you want it to tank or no? You want 50 or 60%? That is insane. Okay, yeah, I do not want that personally. Obi wants a 50 to 60% pullback here on 50, 60,000 he wants on Bitcoin in order for him to start to participate. So 78, once we crack that support level here on Bitcoin, guys, we haven't looked back, and that's been the same thing for a lot of these names. So yeah, got out in the swing here around that 90K, and we're now heading south of that 79,000. I might look to, yeah, I don't know. It just might be pure liquidation day for me, guys, and just sit on some cash and wait for these lows to come in. But I wouldn't mind an oversold bounce at some point, and then maybe get out there if we're going to continue in this kind of trajectory to the downside. But again, a bounce we'll wait for. It will come. Max Payne, always, eventually someone's going to be like, all right, that's enough selling, and then to hit the buy program button, and that's what your boy is going to wait for. It may not come anytime soon, but we'll be patient and hold on to it if we have to. We'll obviously set stops, and if we'll accept the fact that, hey, we gave up a lot of unrealized, and we'll lock in something. But there's no chance that we are going to allow these winning trades that you've been holding on for a long duration turn into a winning trade because I stand by the thesis of HODL. I'm not going to do that, Adair. I don't know about you.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I'm not involved in crypto, truthfully. I always like to say, because I like to be devil's advocate sometime, and I think Sharif asked me, are you like a crypto bear? I'm not a crypto bear, I'm not a crypto bull. I'm a crypto agnostic. I'm a crypto gnostic, right? I want everyone to do well with whatever they're doing. I am not personally involved, and there's no necessarily reason for that and not for that. I want to do more research, I want to be more aware. But regardless, I hope everyone's position does well, and I'll always be in that camp, be it short term or long term. So we got stopped out at app 11, a little bit of slippage, that's cool. APP, I actually think might, okay. I like the 244 level. We popped into 244. If we keep kind of climbing, I will reverse this long, without a doubt or without a question, but I want to see us clear 244s, and we haven't done that yet. So Tesla, I'm in the Tesla short. I've already added to this short. Got involved 229s here. And I mentioned here, I made this pretty clear. I said, if we get a 3-minute prior bar on Tesla and we're below the 90 MA, I short. I got my 3-minute prior bar and I got my second one that was below the 90 MA and I pressed short. And I added here, I would explain my ad because I know it was pretty hasty. I didn't double the position. I went like 1.5x just right here at that 228, 21, 21, 21. And that is because that was the prior bar low in the 3. So if we're like, we can't hold prior bar highs, we're also breaking below prior bar lows. I like the look of that. This is a moderate size position. I think we're risking like just above 1 risk unit with the ad. If we actually, you know what, this might be a lot, but if we break below that 227.40 area too, the other prior low, like if I just kind of scale these highs to the downside, I might even be tempted to add there too, but I do think that would be excessive. Currently, my stop is that 231 area because that was, to me, the change in trend of all of this. If we break above 231, I'm absolutely wrong. But if I'm wrong, then I can flip long sometimes too. And I think that's one thing. And that's why I always like to say I am not directionally biased. And that is because, the reason I like to do this is because the market can give you a lot of different opportunities every day. And if you're stuck looking in one direction, you can miss out. You're seeing the forest for the trees or whatever. You know what I mean? And I think if you just let the market tell you, if you like prices and you're waiting to see what things do at those prices, then I think you're more likely to make A, unbiased trades, B, untilted trades, and C, you're going to have the most opportunities and be able to find different opportunities to get involved in the market. One thing Opie says too is, where are the buyers, where are the sellers, right? Like reasons to buy, reasons to sell. That should exist whether or not you're in a trade or whether or not you want to get into a trade. So if I think for me, the reason to buy in TSLA, whether I'm short or whether I want to go long, is that 231 area. So regardless, that's going to be my stop. I know I said it'd be discretionary with Tesla, this 227. I really want to add here. So I'm going to, we're going to add a really small piece here at this because I still think there's a reason to get involved in this trade. I don't think it's even going to let me add, and that is more than fine. And I'm still short Netflix. And I want to clarify, I did a pulse check on my Netflix short stop because I thought it was prior bars in the 30. It was actually 866.30, which was like the prior bar in the 15 before that. So I kept that. I'm not moving it. But when we get our new 30-minute candle, Joe, in like 10 minutes, I will, without a doubt, be moving my stop on Netflix to that prior bar on that 30-minute. Elon Musk said that X is under a massive cyber attack. Thank you very much, Daytrader Cut, for letting us know. Usually when I'm at this desk and I would have access to Benzinga, I would be using X, but obviously, we can't look at X right now. So here's TSLA continuing to get that little trickle to the downside. I'm going to have to move my stop on this now that we've had enough entries. I'll probably do prior bar in the 5 minutes. So I'm going to adjust that. We're going to get our house in order, as it will. I love saying that. It sounds so dramatic. So thank you for the kind words, Gio. And I feel like one thing, too, is I've been at this desk. I started here, like my first trades ever were taken at this desk. And I've taken some massive L's. I lost a lot of paper money. I lost a lot of real money. There was one time I legitimately, and this is the time I was only trading on the midday, I got stopped out before the midday even started. That is not a joke. You got stopped out in like 5 minutes. That's a record. So the point I'm trying to make is it took me a really long time to get here. And I have no problem, laughing at the past because I want to learn from every single trade and every single day. I want to hone in my strategy. I'm going to find out what works for me. And I hope you guys are finding what works for you. And you're having a great time here because we're always so lucky and so blessed to have you with us.
Yeah, for sure. No, absolutely. I'm glad Glad to be here. As for getting stopped out at there, I've been there too many times, to be honest with you. Yeah. It's like a couple of times I remember, even now it's happened to me. It's like, okay, 9:30, and then I look at the clock and it's 9:40 and your risk is all gone for the day. And it's like, just a little head scratcher on that front. So I've done that countless times, guys. You're not alone on that front. But don't make it a habit is all I can say. We don't want to keep to hold on to those bad habits, guys. We want to kind of get them out of shop there. So here we go, guys. TSLL, I'm looking at it for a potential bounce. Adara short Tesla. I'm assuming you're looking for the break of the low a day here, Adara. And with this weak market being down 13%, that's hefty. How much lower can we go? I guess we'll have to find out. Actually, this is what I want to do here, and I think this is going to tell us a lot. I had this pulled up earlier. So what we're going to go to is this week's expiration cycle. So this would put us at March 14th, and we're going to look for high levels of open interest on the chain to see if that gives us any definitive bottoms. And I'm not seeing anything stand out as 220. 220 is the potential bottom here this week on Tesla with 9,000 open contracts, folks. That's not a whole lot, to be honest with you. So hopefully it holds. I'm sure someone can absorb that liquidity, but we're starting to squeeze a little bit here. I don't want to trade against the Dara, to be honest with you. I do like it for a potential long here, but again, all these pops are just getting faded and really need to take that into consideration. So let's take a look at the one. I forget what I was wanting to mention here on the cues. Oh yeah, that's it. So what I wanted to talk about here, guys, is that we're now back at, what is this, roughly September of 2024 levels here in the NASDAQ, all right? So yeah, I mean, really like 6-7 months of gains just absolutely gone there, folks. So yeah, in a matter of a month or so. Yeah, so not too good of a look. Let's see if we can continue to bleed. I think 449 on the trajectory that we are currently on is totally feasible. And then that's when you start to get into that 30% correction, roughly. Not even roughly. Let's see here. 21%. So 20% correction is going to bring us all the way down here to 420, guys. So yeah, I mean, we can hit 30%. We can hit a little bit more than that. And if we want to go back to August, to one of the questions that we were asked earlier, is that what is this? Is this comparing to what happened in August? And I don't think so. So where is August of 24? April, May, June, July. August would be right here. July. Sorry for the moment of silence there, folks. And there we go. And this is what happened in the yen carry trade. It was only about a 10% pullback. And then within a couple months, we made a new all-time high, but then now just moving sideways. I wasn't expecting us to break through these key support levels like we currently have. I was expecting us more or less you'd get a liquidity grab, and then you'd see some buying pressure, and then we trade within this range here on the Qs, guys. We'll put us at a high of 544 and then a low of 499. We'll call it 500 flat. But it doesn't seem the case. It looks like we want to head a little bit south of that. And with that being said, I think this is going to be the next target, and that's going to be 450. Is it going to happen this week? Maybe, maybe not. We are quite oversold, but at this point, I think some of those oscillators might go out the window. I want to take a look at the put-to-call ratio as well, too, and I already probably know which direction that is going. Significantly more traders buying puts here because the volatility index, the VIX, the fear index, is spiking. And you get that inverse correlation, right? When people are buying calls in the VIX, that usually means they're selling or they're buying puts in the overall market, all right? So I think that is the case here, guys. So looking for Tesla to hold, now putting in a higher low, which is somewhat positive. If it cracks it to the downside, then we might just have to abandon a potential bounce thesis. Let me know in the chat, guys, what are you looking at? What is the hot stock of the day? I want to take a look at some of them. If you, like our guy Jim Cramer always says, there's a bull market somewhere, and it's our job to find it on Mad Money. But XLE, best performing sector here today, hovering around the volume weighted average price. Nice little bottoming signal. But you can see this strong drive that we went into since 9:50. So 20 minutes after that open, we broke through this previous high here and then continued to the top side. You can see us hovering around this level, and then we push through with momentum. Nice breath here. Indecision candles, lower volume, and then that's when you get those engulfing, nice, strong, genuine type price action candles on that one. HSY, says Dan Gale. All right, we'll take a look at HSY. Before we send it back to my girl Adara. Okay, Hershey's. Okay, all right, I like this. And Raider Trader actually called out Hershey's the other day. Yeah, he called out Hershey's. So good look there from Mr. Andrew himself on the Hershey's play, because it is relatively strong compared to the rest of the market. So really good look from that. I forget how he said he found it or what led him necessarily to this, but nice look here on Hershey's, Adara.
I think it's a pretty sweet trade if you're involved. Fun, very much intended. Yeah, right now we're still in the Tesla short, and I don't disagree with you, Joe. Like, this definitely could bottom out. That's fine, but the Qs are still making these lower highs, lower lows, in my opinion. Below VWAP. Tesla's still below the 90 MA. I've been moving my risk here to prior bar high in the 5-minute. That might be too conservative, but given that I did add a little bit, which no regrets on that, but I did add, so I need to be cognizant of that. We do have SPP traders saying, is it going to be the biggest negative candle in a year? We're going to have to wait to find out. I have no idea.
We got an ad read here, I believe.
We have an ad read.
Are we ready for the ad read? Okay, here we go with e-signal. New traders, listen up. First month, free. That's right. We're waiving fees. Trade smarter, not harder. Upgrade to Elite. Analyze, strategize, capitalize. Our platform, it's everything infinite. Infinite data, instant trading, lightning fast market insights, game-changing charts, predict with backtesting, reliable real-time data, global markets at your fingertips, all in one platform. Don't miss out. Execute your best trades now. Ready to elevate your trading? Scan the QR code or check the link in the description, folks. And there it is, e-signal. Finish the thought.
Yeah, shout out to e-signal there. Thank you for that, Joe. I said if Netflix got to 858, I was going to want, like, tons of blood. We're at that 858, so this is my decision point. I want to see us break below that level, or I get at least creep near that level on the ask before I do anything. Because sure, we're below it on the bid, that's fine, but there have been times where I've gotten involved in a stock because we're below it or above it on one side and it doesn't get to the other side, and you get chomped out. With these spready tickers, you have to be aware of the fact that sometimes it can be really communicative if you're communicating on both sides. So I want to see that 858 over on that side of the desk. I don't want to see any 858s here, and I'm happy I waited because look, we're trying to get back to 859s. If we have a hard 858, drop, I 1,000% will be adding, but I don't want to take out any profit here, nor do I want to sell, because I still like the idea of an 858 rejection. And again, in case you missed why, I will continue to show this 15-minute chart on NFLX because, that is NFL, which is a football league, but not what I wanted. NFLX, here you go. Netflix, do you see this 15-minute? This is a bar. Once, we bounce. Second time, and I was short in this, we bounce. Third time, maybe we bounce. I don't know. I can't be biased, but if we don't bounce, if we drop through, I want every single ounce of blood, and I also don't want to sell because I don't think I'm necessarily wrong yet, and I think with the market being a little bit weaker, the chance of that kind of crazy exponential bounce might be lower, but that's, if ifs and buts or candies and nuts or however the saying goes, let's see if Netflix can keep rejecting that 860. Maybe I should have taken a piece out at 858, but look at that. We reject 860 on the ask. We're still partying over here. I have to shout out Polar Ice in the chat saying that, which was listening to Kendrick Lamar, and apparently also Section 80 era Kendrick Lamar. So shout out to you. Hole Up and Rigor Mortis are two of my favorite Kendrick songs and just favorite songs of all time. So shout out here. Razor X9, Joe, actually having a $10 super chat for you, though. Right here, if you saw that.
Oh, no,
so
I didn't.
That
Razor
one
X9.
is addressed to you. It says, Joe, please explain any strategy you have around the PC ratio or puts call ratio. Don't use it, but it is a real-time indicator, which I prefer.
Oh, okay, yeah. So again, I don't necessarily say I have a strategy gauged around the puts to call ratio. It's an oscillator, right? So what you want to do is when you can see that we have a higher buying of puts, what this can identify is that there's more volatility within the market. So that just allows me to, it's a gauge. Okay, what do I have to do stop-wise when I'm, say, writing contracts or anything along those lines? That's what I use it for, all right? So, and again, if you see a lower put-to-call ratio, so more investors, more traders are buying calls, what that says is there's less volatility within the market, and that's when you have the ability to just tighten things up and maybe size in a little bit, all right? So that's what I use the put to call ratio for on the index. But again, I usually gauge the VIX more because you can kind of see the correlation within it. It's just another indicator, right? Whether it be from an equity standpoint, it's essentially like the RSI of options, right? In my opinion, it's the RSI of options, and you just want to use it to gauge, okay? But you can also use the VIX to gauge it, okay? So if I see that the VIX is heightened, that means there's going to be a heightened put to call ratio. What does that mean? Premiums are going to cost more, okay? That means your contracts are going to fluctuate more, okay? So there's just a lot of factors that you can take into consideration when using the put to call ratio, but then you can also just gauge it by using the VIX as well too. So there's no specific strategy, just use it as a sentiment gauge and whether to use stops. And with that, you can write options, collect more premium, but just understand that the fluctuation and the chances of those contracts finishing in the money are greater when you have heightened senses of volatility there. So yeah, that's it. On the put to call ratio, thank you for the $10 super chat. As always, much appreciated. And hopefully that answered your question. I'll look in the chat right now to see if you chimed in or had any further comments. But yeah, just use that, like you can use it to gauge your wider stops and whether you're gonna write or you're gonna buy for this cycle expiration. Okay, so we got another $5 super chat from my guy Pizza Rat. Here we go, love it. Hey Joe, I should probably invest this, but want to put everything on some good motivation during the blood. The song is Zillionaire Dough, Peace of Mind. Okay. Yeah, I mean, yeah, we'll take the $5 super chat, but I know what you mean now. You should have invested that $5, but Zillionaire Dough, I'll write it down right now, and maybe Adair and I will listen to it, because I know she likes rap music and everything along those lines. So yeah, we'll take it. Thank you for that. Much appreciated, Pizza Rat. I had Batty Alleys on the weekend.
Oh, I heard that's, I think we had it once. It was like pretty good. Yeah, how was it?
It's very good. It's actually really good. The thing is, though, you got to order it earlier in the day, because so because there's like a wait time. So Celine and I ordered it around, I think it was like 1:30 or 2, but the pickup time it wasn't until 8:45.
No, you're joking.
I swear, yeah,
I'm not
that's how
6
hot.
hours.
There is a lineup around the corner for this place. Katina, man, I don't know if you've ever been to Batty Alleys, but pizza. Yeah. It's like Batty Alleys, right? Yeah, they're on Dover Court there. Yeah, on Dover. Yeah, exactly right there. So it's probably one of the hottest pizza spots in the city, guys. Lineups around the corner, and you have to pre-order sometimes days in advance to get.
Insane.
Yeah, it was insane. And I'm like, yeah, I mean, it's good, but it's not. It's like 2 days later, good. You know what I mean? Pizza later. So, hey, anyways, guys, let's see what's cooking up here. Holding up fairly well in TSLA. Not going to punch the longs just yet. If we can sit on top of this range, then maybe we'll look to get involved. Some nice bottoming signals. Going to look for those to come into play. And I'm just going to be really, really patient on the session. Apple still bleeding, down 10 points on the day. I don't even want to go through the Mag 7 anymore because they're all down, okay? They're all down. Tesla holding relatively well. Maybe we'll pop in some small size here at Dara to see if we can get anything for the dream. But we need that volume to really kick in here, guys, or we're not going to get that buying pressure, especially when you're down 13%. What does that tell you? For me, personally, it's like, okay, there's no buyers willing to step in and sellers are not yet exhausted. People are still willing to let go of shares at lower prices. So we really need to take that into consideration. So here we go, continuing to climb higher. I'm in at 787 here on TSLA, gonna look for the break of 810 and size into it through 8, looking for the break of 810 and potentially 820 here for a price target here, Adair, on any form of bounce on Tesla.
Nice. Yeah, I'm still in the short, but you have to have your own way. I think the thing is too, everyone can make money in different ways.
Yeah,
so,
exactly.
See, this is. Right now, I have like the Tesla book up, but the Netflix chart up, which is kind of confusing. So I did add to Netflix. I said if we get that 858, I like the way we were slamming into the bid on Netflix around 858. So I did add. Right now here, my average, because I just doubled up here, it's 860.51. So if I do get stopped out, that would be, I'm risking about $4 for my entry point. It's about 2 risk units of risk, which is more than I initially had. Now that we have a new 15-minute bar, I initially was risking to the 30, right? So I don't want to switch up my risk all of a sudden and go to the 15. But given the 862, And the fact that I've now doubled my position, I may have to switch that risk. Truthfully, I think I'm wrong if we get back above 860s. So you know what? We actually are going to move the stop. We're going to move the stop here to 862, just above 862, because it is a spready ticker. And you want to give it a bit of breathing room, but not so much breathing room that you choke yourself out. So 862.02 is what we're doing here for the Netflix one, to use a bit of a Sharifism there, in terms of like the, whatever one. So, we got stopped out here of TSLA. That's fine. So 5-minute bar break. We get stopped out of TSLA. I don't even know what price. Yeah, we got stopped, I guess, roughly break even for the rest of that position. So good luck there with Joe on the long. I hope you print, as we always say here, money storms. That's what we want here for every trader in the chat and here with us in person. I like this. I took some profit on the first pieces, got kind of break even with the rest of it. I did add on this pretty aggressively throughout. So please just punch with that. But I have to say, I actually do think the probability of this Netflix working out is getting higher. And I love that. So the first time we tried this 858 bounce today, or breakthrough today, sorry, we bounced violently. Today, we get a little bit of bounce, and then we go back to the downside. So I really like this. Like I said, I was a little bit hesitant with this, only because it didn't break one of my rules, but kind of skirted with one of my rules with regards to the 3 strikes rule per direction. But again, given that my first strike, I fat fingered the second after getting in, I was like, you know what, Adara, I don't know if you count that. I think you give it another opportunity. The idea was right, and your finger was too fat. And so my finger went on a diet, and we took these other tries here. So speaking of a diet, I could look at Novo Nordisk again, but we're going to take a look at MSGR. Because shout out to Stevenson ATN. I mentioned this earlier as a short. Stevenson ATN apparently took this short and is killing it. So shout out to you. I will fully say to myself, I take a massive L. There's the fail button. I take a fail for MSGR. There were a couple areas which I liked as a short, including even above VWAP at 257. And I just forgot. I got lost in the sauce with my other tickers. Now, to be clear, I'm happy with the trades I've taken. I'm not going to lose any sleep over this.
Adair, sorry to interrupt you. You can finish that. But we hit our price target on the play marker poll to the short side, guys. So hit that 2-to-1. We were in at 562.60, and then our price target was 560.60, and we hit that. So
nice.
There we go. Yeah.
The playmakers.
Yeah, exactly. To the playmakers, exactly. Sorry, finish here.
Yeah, no worries. I was just waxing some poetic there. Now, Polar Ice is still listening to Kendrick's. Guys, we are united in grief. Kendrick Lamar. Opening track there off of Mr. Morale, which I found was a really underrated album from Kendrick in 2022. And also, yeah, I think everyone is, honestly, united in some grief if you have long-term positions in the market. Like I said, I am involved in the market through a financial advisor, but involved nonetheless. So yeah, we all are certainly united in grief. Very timely Kendrick Lamar reference there from our friend Polar Ice. But you know what? The best thing too is there's always another day, right? Don't panic too much. It's one singular day. As Joe said, maybe you want to take time to reevaluate your positions, but make sure you're not getting too lost in the sauce like I was with all of my descriptions just there. And make sure that you are taking each day at a time. Take a look at the wider term. And with that in mind, we're going to take a look here at our trading view chart in Netflix, which look at that break below that level. I'm so happy I added. Oh my gosh. I'll stop singing, but look at, we broke below that level. I took the ad. I'm happy I did. Now, this is where you take a moment to stop to assess. Where am I profit taking on this? There's so much upside. Where do we get the downside? So we take out my daily chart. Oh, wow. Okay, so I'm honestly, guys, and this is really weird, and I don't like this because I like to have some kind of profit taker maybe in the near horizon. If I'm being real, the next level I see is 825. So that is kind of nuts, and I definitely do not know if Netflix is going to sell another cool almost $50. I guess 25. The point is, it's not going to sell that. I don't know if it'll sell that much, so we'll be careful. If I look at the weekly, I still see this 825. So I don't know. Maybe the area you could talk about this is top in this weekly chart here, which was 842 is reasonable. Maybe we'll set a profit target at 842 because I don't want to say, oh, this market, can't sell that much. But truthfully, if you make assumption on how much the market can or can't sell, you do risk getting burnt because you can't make assumptions like that, right? The market's going to give you what it gives you. Mother market will treat you how she may. And if you misbehaved, you deserve, not getting dessert or whatever after supper. But regardless, you got to take these things as they come. And so with that in mind, I am not going to make any moves here on flakes till it gives me a little bit more info. That being said, if we break 850, I'll set a profit target at 850. That's a good idea. So I'll do 851.21. And that is, I know, really specific. But if I like a level on a spready ticker, I like to usually give it at least 50 cents. With something like Netflix, with the spread this has, I'm going to give it $1. So if I want 850s, I'm going to get to just above 851s. I think that is reasonable. And thank you very much, Michelle V, for the kind words. I love this energy. I love being with this market, and I'm happy to be here with you all. How you doing?
Yeah, no, more than thankful, happy. Even if it's a red day, Adair, it's a privilege to sit in these desks for sure. Yeah, guys, let's see what we got cooking up. We might have to get in this trade right here, out of this trade right here, as we go to head to some key support levels. I mentioned before, if we break through it, you're just not going to get these bounces. Down now probably 13.5%, 14%. That means no one has stepped in. No one wants to buy this stock up just yet. And my boy Greg V was telling me, he's like, yeah, Joe, it's not looking pretty in this name, but I'm looking for this oversold bounce so I can liquidate the position long term. At what point? Other than break even, right? Like if it comes back to my break even, which is just below 200, then I'm out, because there's no way I'm going to sit in a trade for over a year and then allow it to go from positive to negative, right? That just doesn't make sense. That's basic risk management, all right? So let's see what we got going on. We hit the 2-to-1 on the playmaker, guys. So good voting there. And to be honest with you, with the path that we were on, I didn't think we were gonna ever vote short, but I'm glad that everybody's bias has flipped, and then now we're going to the south side because it looks like it's going to come into play. But I want to talk about this 470 level on the Qs. Highest level of open interest on this expiration cycle, on today's expiration cycle. We were talking about this at 475. We are now at 472.53. Are we going to go exactly to 470? No, but I would definitely look for a bounce just above 470, whether it be 471, 471 and a half, all right? That is my opinion, and they've came into play as of late. So keeping a high level, if you have your options chain open, look for those standout levels, those standout strike prices that say, hey, we might bounce off of this, we may reject it, whatever it may be, and that's what we pointed out here. Is 470 on the Qs and 220, unfortunately, on Tesla. So yeah, there we go, guys. Holding on, just trading in this range. I wouldn't be surprised if we just get this sideways type price action, being down 13% on the session. How much lower would you like to go? Not too much, to be honest with you, but it can continue to climb lower and lower here, guys. Yeah, so we only got about 7 minutes left. If there's anything you want me, time flies on Monday. On Monday, I always find it goes the fastest. Because if there's anything you want me to go over, put it in the chat. I will do so. If there's anything regarding options, the options chain, or specific strategies, like we had that one super chat saying, hey, Joe, how do you utilize the put to call ratio? And I said, hey, you can use it this way or that way. So yeah, let me know and we will go over it. Yes, I know BTC is near the lows here, the year lows, I guess it is. I'll pull it up from a daily standpoint to see what we got going on.
Year low, that's crazy.
Yeah, it is not good whatsoever. So right back into this breakout level, guys. I talked about this 8-month period of consolidation, and then it just feels like that it was just people getting ahead of themselves, including myself, with the $100,000, and then we put in a high of 109, and then essentially haven't looked back, nor have we tested it again since that 109. So yeah, tough look coming back into this range. Can we bounce off of it? I was looking for this candle, even though this isn't a genuine print. I was looking for it to hold, but it looks like we're going to break through it to the south side. Now at 78,000 is Bitcoin. We can, you know what can happen in this underlying, guys. We can get that 50% pullback, and if we want to go 50% from all that that all-time high, Katina Man said it himself. What are we going to see? 50K or 150K? All right. He won that one. He says he thinks we're going to see 50K. But the thing is, though, my guy Sharif, if you're listening, come your birthday. When's his birthday? May something?
May 25th, 1982.
May 2082. Yeah, May 25th, 1982. I remember it. I don't even remember I remember my grandma's birthday, but that's about it. I'm not very good with that one. Here we go, Fabian. There we go. The coffee team here, boys. So yeah. We're going to run into that. I'm going to win this bet here, Sharif, it looks like. So you can fork over some iBid stuff or even cash. I'm accepting cash. I'm accepting a lot here. Yeah. We're going over the bed, and I'm talking to Sharif as if he's here. So if he wants to pay earlier, maybe I'll strike him a deal, and we can just close the bet off. But if not, then you got to pay me full amount. So let's see, Joe, how far should my contracts be out? I think a month works for me because I don't like anything higher than $150 contracts. Now, if you're restricting your limits there, then a month is good. But for me, I always say buy time, right? Buy as much time as possible because you don't want Theta to chew up the value of your purchases unless you are selling. Then you want Theta to work in front of you. That's a different subject. But again, just buy more time. If you think something's going to work out in a week or two, give it a month, give it 2 months. It's always worth it instead of having to fight Theta throughout the whole duration of you earning those contracts. And then when you do start to trade a little bit of in the money and you don't, and you're like, well, why am I still negative? Well, it's because Theta chewed up the value of your contracts, okay? So let's see what everybody else is on to. Dollar cost average, okay, I see what you're getting at. Dan Ives about to get fired. That's funny. I don't think he's going to get fired, but again, he still thinks to run. Same with my guy Tom Lee over at FundStrat, one of my favorite analysts. So they're still bullish. They think that we can get a bounce here. I agree with those guys. They've been right for the better part of 2 years. Can they be wrong? Absolutely. They're only human as well, too. But they're extremely smart, and they can dig into things that I necessarily can't. So that is my thought in the overall market. And in Bitcoin, Sharif, if you want to pay up, we can strike a deal, my guy. But yeah, Derek, we got 4 minutes left. What are you working on there? You still short at Netflix?
Oh, I am, and I don't want to wax poetic about it. There's nothing more to say. We're short Netflix here. We are, again, average here, 860.50. Currently, Netflix is around roughly 857, so I have no complaints. I'm really proud of what I did with that trade. Please just punch. But I want to talk about ELF here. Vern in the chat said, can we talk about ELF? And I'm like, yeah, sure. I love ELF. ELF is slightly spready. It's about 20-cent spread. I mean, like I said, I usually like a little bit more meat to chew on. But regardless, I can look at a chart. And ELF is a bull flag. Look at this. We push to the upside. We get this beautiful bounce off of VWAP. Come here, make a higher high, another higher high. Then we do make some slightly lower lows, but we're still bouncing off VWAP. And you know what, Joe? I want to look at this in a 15-minute chart because I want a little bit more. This is beautiful. Okay, so yes, you're still making slightly lower lows here. But this still generally looks like a bull flag. I like the look of this here on ELF. And I honestly think, yeah, I mean, I don't need to apply much makeup to this. This has a perfect face. This is a vision of beauty here, this ELF chart. And I mean, yeah.
Okay. Talk to me.
This is actually, I like this.
What's going through your brain?
Look at this daily chart.
Okay.
This daily chart, this is hard bear flag here. We get this push here into, I'm pretty sure this was earnings. And look where we're trying to break out of now. This is a bit of a level of resistance on the daily chart. So I think if we got like a nice close here above that 77 level, I don't think that's a bad look at all. Is this something you can capitalize on intraday? Not necessarily, but look where this is. Where is this resistance? Like what? Like the higher one is like, it's just around 78. Let's see where the high of day was, because I would wager it's right at 78. So this is a huge example of when you're in these trades, especially if you're long like this and you're looking, where do I get a profit taker? What do I deal with here? Look at the daily chart. It can provide you with some opportunities. I think clearly if you looked at this daily chart right here, right now, you would be like 78 would be a good profit taker for you for ELF, and you would be correct. You could still keep a piece for the dream, but I think that's why it's really important sometimes if you feel like you're in no man's land or you're not really sure where there's any potential.
Oh wow, Derek.
What's going on here?
Some aggressive selling stepping in on Tesla here.
Yeah,
so we're gonna hop out. I mean, there's no way. Okay, so again, 220 is those high levels of open interest. Are we going to get that extreme gamma move into those contracts that would accelerate price to those? So as we get closer into at the money, you're going to see that gamma pick up, and that's when you can see the volatility and the speed and momentum really start to pick up here, guys, in this name. So it would not be a good look if Tesla traded all the way down to $220 on the session. So that volatility spike could have been just someone covering or getting out of a position, maybe possibly, but we need to be aware of this downside momentum. 195, please come, Elon says, Latif. Okay, that's going to suck because I'll have to get out of that position and I want to hold it for an oversold balance before I get to my break even, but it's not looking like it's going to come into play. Bitcoin selling, everything selling here, guys. We got about 10 seconds left. If you're short, congratulations. If you're long, be more patient, wait for those bounces and see if the market can rebound tomorrow. Adara, is there anything you want to say before we? Oh, okay, we're going to wait a second. We're going to hold it. Katina Mann's still getting ready. Yeah, I heard my guy there. So Elon, we'll hold off here and see what we got cooking up. Be patient. Don't force anything that isn't displaying itself. And if you're looking for those longs, get out when you're supposed to, because if you're bag holding on this session, you're not going to be having a good time, guys. And you have to take that into consideration. Tomorrow's going to be a new day, and we can get the polar opposite type price action.
Oh, yeah.
And you don't want to be mad at the fact that you held on too much. You blew up your account, and now you can't trade the next day when everything decides it wants to rebound. Can it rebound? Absolutely. Will it rebound? We don't know, Adara. We just have to wait until the market opens tomorrow, but we still have a lot of time left in the session, 2 hours to be exact, and anything can happen on that front. Guys, so that's it. We're going to slowly throw it over to the big boys at the desk.
Great. Yo.
What's happening?
Yo, it's chilling out. Yeah, sorry about that. Me and Randy had to, Randy wanted to, I'm trying to figure out tires.
Oh, nice.
Doing
Yeah.
this, I'm doing that. I'm shorting the Qs. We're in the Q short right now. We're in the AMD short right
How's
now.
that? How's your tire search rolling?